Welcome, everyone, to a very special episode of the Fake Nerd Podcast. We are talking about Phase 4. We're going through the kind of divisive, kind of rocky, kind of fun experience that was Phase 4 for the last 2 years. I am very excited. I am here with my good friends and co-hosts, Ben Magnet.
That's me.
Ryan Eliopoulos.
Set phasers to fun.
Sparks Witty.
I am here also.
And we're joined by our good friend and special guest, Mike Matola, because we were just so excited to know what he had to think about this.
Oh, hello, everybody. It's good to be back.
Welcome to the phase.
We love talking to you.
Phase.
We love talking to you. We're happy you're here.
I'm so happy to be here. It's been too long. I think someone mentioned before, since we last talked about Marvel movies, had been 2 years. This phase, are like the other phases this long? This phase has seemed to go on forever.
So this phase is shorter, but it is 17 projects in 2 years.
It's because of all the TV stuff.
It's too much. It's too much.
It's a lot.
It's too much. We can't do it. It's too much.
It's unsustainable in this economy.
So yes, we are talking all 17 entries of Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The last time we talked to Mike Matola about this was the discussion of just the TV shows halfway through the first year of Phase 4.
We talked about Black Widow too because it had come out, but that was it.
So from WandaVision to I'm doing this without looking. Wakanda Forever.
Nope. Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special.
Yep.
You're right. You're right. I should have looked.
I'm looking. I am in no way trying to fake that I have all this memorized. I have to look.
I will not lie. When we were decided to do like a ranking, or when we were talking about this, I was making my list. I was definitely going back and forth to make sure I got everything because I forgot a lot of stuff.
I made Brandon send it to me. I made him send it to me like 3 times. Like, send me I want like the official. Because you even took one out. There's actually one more on the list, and we're not going to talk about it, which is crazy. It's actually more than this.
Technically, I Am Groot is a part of Phase 4, but we are not talking about it. We did decide to talk about What If, and that's as far as that got.
Yeah.
You guys were so exhausted. We're like, no more.
So Sparks, because this was the format that you came up with, why don't you kind of run us through it?
Okay, yeah. So we're not really doing like even mini reviews in this. We've as the Fake Nerd Podcast, we've reviewed these to death. We did a very in-depth and I think very good even today discussion with Mike about the midway-ish of Phase 4, and I think that's a valuable informer to this conversation. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through in release order Phase 4, and all of us each individually are going to give our ranking number and explain why we put it there. And have a little discussion around it, and then we'll move on. And when we get to the end, we'll re-review our ranking list and have a whole discussion on how Phase 4 landed for us overall and why we think it's this way.
Real quick, I want to know, Mike, because we watch. This is our bread and butter. Like we review everything, right? Like you don't. So like, what homework did you do? Did you watch things you haven't seen before?
So the homework. So when you asked me this, the homework I had to do. Good question. The ones that I didn't watch were Ms. Marvel, Werewolf by Night, and the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special were the 3 that just sailed by.
Wow.
Sailed by, and I was like, all right, but everything else. Oh no, and Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, actually. That one sailed by too. Those were the 4. The rest I was on and excited to watch, and those just life, like it just didn't get to it, quote unquote. But now because there's 17 the landscape has changed, since 2020. Like before, I remember like Iron Man 2 came out, and we all were like, everyone was in the theater. Like I went to the theater, and like friends of mine were behind me, and I was like, oh, you guys came too, like the place was packed, and now it's like, well, I'll wait till it comes out. I can watch it on Disney Plus. Like I can't get, like, if I don't make it out, who cares? life didn't line up, so I didn't get to go see it in the theater. We'll watch on Disney Plus. Oh, but what night? I don't know. And then suddenly 2 more things came out. And like, well, let's watch. Oh, let's watch the series instead. So now I haven't watched the movie before it, but like I'm enjoying the series, and you never look back. It's like the whole, even watching these properties is different now.
Yeah. So real quickly, as Sparks mentioned, we have talked to death about these. Every single project that we're going to talk about today, we have talked about. So there is very handedly a YouTube playlist with everything we've talked about regarding the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where you can find it all if you want the in-depth discussions. I'll link that below, or Sparks will link that below in the description.
Yeah. Including the previous discussion with Mike I mentioned. I'm honestly so relieved, Mike, that those were the things you missed, because I was nervous as hell that when we brought this up, you had like 3 multiple episode series you were going to have to get through. And I'm like, that's so rough.
Oh, no, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. Yeah. It was a joy to get through, to cross them all off my list. Not too shabby.
Love it.
All right. Well, why don't we get started then? So we're going to talk about release order, correct, Sparks?
Yep.
So we're going to start with WandaVision. WandaVision. Where does that sit with everyone?
Oh,
that's.
I'll go
How
first.
Do we start?
It's 13.
13.
Ooh.
It's gonna be a fun conversation.
13 out of 17. Yeah. WandaVision 13 for me.
I got 7.
Let's go on a clock or.
Nope. Well, we're one part. We're one unit.
They're one screen. So
Okay, yeah.
I said 7. Okay, it's number 7 out of 17.
Okay.
I'll go next. I have it at 9.
I have it at number 6.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have it at 10. So it's it's there. It's in my yellow. It's in my lower yellow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
why is it so low for you, Sparks?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I moved it around a lot, and I'll admit, like, I haven't gone back and really watched the whole thing since it premiered. But for me, so much of it feels like now it depends on the mystery, and playing into that television motif gives it a lot of points. They do a great job with it, but I'm like, what is the value of returning to this story? And because the point of the story is in the finale, and the finale whiffs and has something that has aged very poorly with me, which is the Ralph Boner joke, which I find just blatantly insulting to an audience.
When it happened.
No, but like it's gotten worse and worse. And like I'm like, this feels like the one time really blatantly where they held up a middle finger to the fans who had supported them up to this point in a way I just don't like. And then you factor in Multiverse of Madness and how like I like that more, and they don't work in conversation as well together as they should. So I prioritize the one I like more, and WandaVision sinks a little lower for not working with it. And that's where I ended up. A lot of the other ones I'm going to name above it, I got more out of that I think upon rewatch I would still enjoy. I might change this. It fluctuates all the time, but right now, 13.
Yeah. We're all like around-ish the same area, 6 to 10, right? Like, so it's not the top, not the top, not the bottom, it's in the middle. And I would agree with everything Spark said, but I still think it being the first outing for Disney's TV show thing, I think they started, besides the finale, a great season of TV, I think. It is based off a mystery, but like my favorite TV show is a mystery show, and I know the mystery. So like that, not that like that doesn't certainly. It's different for everybody.
I do want to clarify on that point that it's not the fact that it's a mystery show that's the problem, because I love mystery shows. Yeah, it's the fact that the answer becomes more and more surface level and shallow as we get closer to it, rather than being as weird as it starts.
That's totally
like fair. It was like Lost, where you're like, oh, this is stupid. Where it's like, what's going on? You're like, oh, there's people outside. Oh, that's the mystery? Yeah, they're trying to get in. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's who all the weird people are. Oh, all right.
Yeah, I definitely think the first half is much stronger than the second half. But like I still think it is really cool that there are some like really like harrowing and like really like there's some really scary scenes in that show. Like some of the zombie stuff, like with Vision, like appearing as a zombie for 1 second, really great. I think some of the emotional stuff is really strong, like especially between Vision and Wanda. the other stuff, like I think the villains, like the shield guy, he's kind of lame. But you know what? There's a lot of villains who don't always work for me. It's more about the heroes sometimes.
I agree. I'm kind of in the middle of both of you because I wholeheartedly agree with Sparks. Honestly, the show would be higher on my list if the Ralph Boner thing wasn't in it. I just find that to be so insensitive and just kind of mean-spirited in a way that I just don't think the MCU has ever been. And I don't even think they intended it to be. I just think it ended up being that way. Mm-hmm. But the emotional stuff with Wanda and Vision, I think, is very solid. I'm so proud of Randall Park. Every single time I see that card trick he does, I'm like, oh, you did it. You nailed it.
Together, yeah, like that's all.
I think there's some really strong stuff, and I'm not as cold on the ending. I'm a little. So you know what? I'll actually back that up. I'm a little colder on the ending now of just like I enslaved the whole town. It's fine.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's odd. It's an odd show that like. You know what it does it for me? It's such a weird thing. You guys are on the Ralph Boner thing. That just shot by me and I don't even think about it. I didn't like that she watched Malcolm in the Middle. Like it's a weird thing for me where I like in The Simpsons, they had, this is in the heyday, they had Rainier Wolfcastle. And that was the amalgam. That was like Arnold Schwarzenegger. They had all these politicians that weren't their names, and suddenly Arnold Schwarzenegger was in the universe. And it just, I liked it. I like the MCU to be like the real world. Like the Simpsons live in the United States. They live in a state and they live in a city, but it's still this heightened reality, so we can use it as a reflection on our own. Mm-hmm. So like. When it was like, oh, she's in a 50s TV show. Oh, she's in a 60s TV show. Oh, she's in a 70s. Now she's 80s, 90s. I was like, oh, this is great. And then when they showed the DVDs that she watched, and that was like directly how I was like, oh, she watched like Malcolm in the Middle. That's like Frankie Muniz is in the MCU. Like it's really weird to me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, oh, okay, he's in the MCU. This show is in the MCU. Is UPN in the MCU? Did they merge to become the CW? Oh, did Tony Stark see Malcolm in the Middle? Like, then suddenly I'm like, what's happening? Yeah. And this is just like a personal thing, but that dropped it down for me a little bit weird because they're from a made up foreign country.
Yeah,
that's supposed to represent a war-torn Eastern European country, but then they don't do that for the TV. See what I'm getting at? Like they do all the things.
Yeah, but all of her reference points are like American stuff,
right?
So
yeah, but like in the sense of like we make up the facsimiles of the things we want, like Latvia for Dr. Doom, but we're not like, oh, he took over Afghanistan. Like we make up the facsimiles, but then for this one they just didn't.
You know what it is?
Weird to me.
You know what it is? This is actually really interesting. I remember someone talking about how Lex Luthor being the president in the DC universe like changed everything because like all of a sudden a fictional character was before then it was just like the president is just the president. We never actually see their face, but like Lex Luthor becomes the president. That changed like the trajectory of DC Comics, and then all of a sudden Obama is president, and you're like, but wait. Did Obama follow Lex Luthor? Because like, what was the policies now? What happened? How did that change everything?
Yeah.
It like in a such a layered show, in such a layered so it's literally the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And they're dropping breadcrumbs everywhere. That's really interesting to unfold it like that. I didn't like that. That was my like critique. I just think about that. Like, oh, she grew up watching Malcolm in the Middle. Okay, neat on DVD. Like it was
it was real, Mike.
Ben, you have the highest on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I mean, all the stuff about WandaVision is still completely valid. I still think the Ralph Boner joke is is dumb, and the finale kind of does fall flat. But what I just love about WandaVision mostly, and why it's so high on the list for me, is because of how different it was. Like we turn it on, and it was a black and white 4x3 60s or 1950s 60s sitcom, and then the next week was the same thing. We never got answers until episode 4. And the fact that the mystery kept playing up, I mean, and then it was kind of like a mini history of television or era of, or like eras of different television per se. And to be perfectly honest, because it's that different, that's why I like it that much. Because no other MCU show has ever done anything like that. And I just enjoyed it for what it was. I enjoyed like the 1950, like when in episode 2 when she turns the whole world into color, and then when she, and of course you always get the whatchamacallit, you always get like the little mystery breadcrumbs about Sword or like, hey, how come this helicopter, like this remote toy helicopter is here, and it turns out it was a drone that they put in. So
and we got Monica Rambeau, and she's awesome.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, and
you got Monica
there's also the thing of like, you know, the show was filmed during COVID, and it was one of the first times where we were really looking, what is a show filmed during COVID is going to look like, and those restrictions that were required on them. Because that's the reason why Darcy just disappears in the finale. She's gone after she hits the dude with the car.
And I try to be understanding of that, but at the end of the day, the product is still the product, and you still have to just go with what you're given. Like, this is still what it is. It you know, there's no asterisk when they reference back to the events of WandaVision that's like, by the way, some of these things probably would have gone differently. Like we would tell Darcy's story a little differently.
Andor was filmed during COVID too.
If it wasn't during COVID. So it's like, you're right in the production sense, but it's also like, it is what it is at the end of the day.
I don't mean that as an excuse for WandaVision. I'm mostly just kind of, I was mostly as just me like being impressed that this is the kind of thing that we got during COVID, being like early days COVID. And then finally, just the last button I want to put on WandaVision myself is that like the speculation for WandaVision, discussing it with you guys on our Fake News Watches, things like that, was immensely enjoyable. One of the most immensely enjoyable speculation discussions I've ever experienced with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, let alone ever. So
yeah, I agree with that.
It's a solid middle.
I do want to elaborate on that only a little, to say like, yeah, it's my 13. I like a lot of these, and some of them are just like lower by an inch. And WandaVision is one of those where like it's lower than it's 2 above it by like barely. And on top of that, I do want to go back on this, because the Ralph Boner thing, it's not the joke of the name that bothers me. The thing that made me put the show so much lower is Evan Peters' involvement overall bothers me now, because we've gotten to the point where later on Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are brought in, and they are acknowledged from their universe, and we have a Patrick Stewart as Xavier from another universe, but they threw in Evan Peters knowing an audience would go, this means a thing, and they're like, this doesn't mean anything at all. In fact, stupid name. But like, they ruined that whole concept because they just knew that the audience would be in a fervor over it for nothing. And that's the part that really ages poorly with me about it, is that Evan Peters' inclusion means nothing in the context of the show. All it means is when we first watched it, we asked questions that didn't mean anything.
Yeah, sure.
That's where that really ages awful with me.
Yeah, because it's true.
Well, isn't that what art is? Answering questions no one asked.
Right. True. On that note, let's move on to.
I was just going to say, Ben, did you have any final notes there? Because I do think we kind of jumped in while you were in the midst of your last thoughts.
Nah, not really.
Okay.
All right. Now let's move on to the second second project of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
What's the next thing they shit out?
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Sparks, where'd you hit that one?
17.
Ryan?
Let me see. 16.
17 for me.
Yeah.
Ben? 14.
Oh.
Ooh.
Wow.
Oh.
Mike?
It's still low.
I'm so excited to hear that.
It's still low.
Oh, and 17 from me. Like just easy. Easy 17.
But honestly, easy 17 for me as well. Ben, I am very curious.
Crazy.
Why 14?
When I was going through the bottom bits of my list, I was trying to figure out if I had to put 2 things next to each other, which one would I rather watch? And I would rather watch Falcon over obviously 15, 16, 17, mostly because I will agree it takes way too long, but I just enjoy it a little bit more. I mean, there are problems with it. We talked immensely about the problems of how them trying to turn it into an 8-hour movie doesn't necessarily work. But other than that, it's like I still get to see Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes be Falcon, eventually Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and it looks great. And I like how they kind of button heads, and then they eventually become the BFFs.
So the real question is what's below his.
That's true. That's true.
Like, not what he thinks about Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I know one of them for sure, but the other two, I'm like, I don't know.
Halloween 3.
I wanna bounce in. Oh Jesus, Halloween ends. I want to bounce in real quickly on that, Ben, because so my opinion of Falcon and Winter Soldier is very much how Mike felt when he figured out, when he saw Malcolm in the Middle as a DVD in WandaVision. Falcon and Winter Soldier legitimately broke me and has continued to break me the more I think about it, because the politics of that show. It is a show that is basically just okay. Hold on. It is a show that is saying, Carly, who is Flag Smasher, is like, we need to tell the government to pay attention to the people who were left behind and not all the people who came back. But she's right. She is undisputably in the right. But then she blows up a hospital, and all of a sudden she's an evil maniacal maniac. And the problem is the show tried to give Falcon a speech that would kind of both sides of the whole thing, but it ends up just leaning on the conservative side of it. And so the more I think about it, the more the show hurts me, because I'm like, you had the potential of telling a show of actually diving in of the blip was a mistake. The blip was 100% a mistake. And it is because of Falcon and Winter Soldier that I feel that way. Because within the context of Endgame, yeah, no, it's great plot line. It works. But the fact that you were just like, okay, we're not going to ever deal with it. Ever. 5 years, 50% of the population of Earth was just gone. And it is just never addressed.
Yeah. I'll go off that to say that
go on, Queen.
This week I watched Princess Weeks, whose YouTuber, released a discussion about Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I watched the same thing
just this week in context of so much thinking about imperialism post the Queen's passing and all this kind of stuff. And I think it's a wonderfully put point about what doesn't work. I also re-listened to our conversation with Mike, and we really tear into Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I think everything we said there still holds up too. And I think Mike brings up an excellent point where one of the worst things about it is that they don't even think about who Sam is for this show. We touched on it there, that they totally throw out the idea that he was a person who was at the VA helping people deal with PTSD, and that is not the character that's in the show.
Yeah.
That's not a part of who he is, which should be an important part of what makes him special as Captain America. And then you factor in the blip stuff, which we even acknowledged in that discussion. At this point, it seems like the blip was a mistake. And when we're living in this post-COVID reality where how much that disrupted our lives, the idea of half the population disappearing and then 5 years later come back are two individually huge events that would change everything.
And they're sweeping it
under
the rug.
And this is the only show that they'll probably ever make to kind of come close to dealing with it. And they totally whiff. They have no concept of how to represent it. They have a white woman utilize a mixed race girl as a weapon and then be like, she's the power broker. Isn't that impressive? And I'm like, no, it's terrible. This is all terrible. And
Sharon Carter.
Yes. It's so unwilling to dig into anything that matters. And it really was I didn't even need you to do the blip in this show. I wish you had just tackled a black man being Captain America and sincerely went for that, but they don't even do that. They barely give Carl Lumley the incredible attention that he deserves to do it. Carl Lumley should have had a flashback episode. Frankly, this is the show that should have been 18 episodes.
Yeah.
Like Daredevil.
Oh yeah.
Instead of being a short film, this should have been a dense, long political series about this whole thing, but everything's rushed through and ultimately meaningless.
Suit looks great.
I'll even go a step further to reveal to you guys that in my entire MCU ranking, this is second from the bottom.
Yeah.
It's arguably going to be the bottom soon. It's that low. I almost despise it.
Yeah.
Wait, in the entire ranking, what's it above?
Iron Man 2. And barely.
Okay. Oh. Well, that's not in this, but all right. Okay. Interesting.
I'm actually really curious because I also keep track of my overall MCU rankings?
don't. You guys are crazy. I would be scribbling in the wall. I'd be in a padded cell. I don't know how are you doing that?
Falcon and Winter Soldier is 2 from the bottom above Iron Man 2 for me too.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fun. Mike?
Me? What about me?
Do you want to say anything?
Any final words?
What more could I possibly say? I mean, you guys are just giving me like flashbacks of like Vietnam.
PTSD.
Like it's it was a huge missed opportunity. And it's weird because now like the Winter Soldiers and the Thunderbolts, you're like, okay. Like I don't know, nothing makes sense, and they're just this whole phase. Yeah. This whole phase is like just really muddy. Some stuff is setting up the multiple timelines, you know, that whole adventure. Some are setting up like maybe Secret Wars. I don't even know. Some like the Thunderbolts, all other TV shows, they're pulling back these things, and it's fine. It made me. A lot of these weren't media. A lot of these felt like comic books where you get away with it for some reason in a comic book when you're just pulling all these characters and it says in an asterisk, don't know who the hell this is? Go read X-Men number 85. For this, like a lot of these TV shows felt like that, and it was too much. A lot of these TV shows were like, why is there that storyline? Like, why did you tack this on? Like, what do you like? They would always tack on. Almost like in WandaVision, they would always tack on just like a government agency shows up. You're like, why are they even like they're not even the villain? Like, so you would have in WandaVision, you'd have Agatha, and then the government agency. And every one of these, it's like the villain and also this government agency.
Oh, you're right.
Like, oh, it's too many. Just let them fight.
Yeah.
Like let them fight their dark selves and not have these. They're always in just the black Escalades, and they always just show up, and they're always like, "Give me a perimeter. We're hammer. We're shield. We're sword. We're
damage control
anagram, huh?
Damage control.
Yeah.
Damage control. Yeah. Who are we? We're the awesome League of X-Men Extermination. You're like, okay, cool, amazing, and you're unnamed chick with the slick back hairdo that's like, I need more men on the east side. If you let her get away.
Like, you're so right that like all of Phase 4 is littered with like these examples of bureaucracy that's supposed to kind of step in and help and falling apart, but not really making a commentary on the fact that it falls apart. Even Thor: Love and Thunder has it in the representation of the other gods, like this other power that is expected to step in and take responsibility, and they don't.
Yeah.
Well,
what is that? What's going on?
On that note, because I'm excited to get one of these entries, I'm also really excited to know because our third entry is Loki.
Okay.
Number 2.
Number 8.
Number 8. Oh, mine is mine's 8 as well.
I have 5. Number 5.
Hell yeah, Mike.
This is a little higher for me. This is still in my yellow zone. If you're just tuning in, I'm not sure if I said this. I have a green zone, a yellow zone, and a red zone. And they can kind of, if you're in a zone, you can all kind of fight in there a little bit, you know? But this is the very top of the yellow zone. This is just right there, right below the green zone.
Sure.
Why? Oh, man, because there's 4 better things above it. But it's because there's 4 better things above it, and we'll get to what those things are. It was really good. Well, here's the deal: it was really good, but it was characters I had seen before. Loki. It was like more Loki, and it was. I mean, but here's the deal: they made it right when they were supposed to. Like you were like, I need some more Loki, right? Like, give me some more, and they were like, here you go, and you're like, thank you, because some of this stuff was not made in time. Like, I don't want to, like, we'll get up to it later, but some of these I watched and I was like, oh, this was approved 10 years ago. We finally got to see it, and it is stale. Like, I like, this should not have been made. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, Tom Hiddleston's great. We talked about Loki, right?
Yeah.
Very confusing, but it starts off like the whole timeline and dimensions things. I'm realizing watching all these, the whole multiple timelines and how that's going to fold in on itself, I don't like, and I realized it was because I can't like visualize it with the Infinity Stones. I was like, there's like 7. Is it 7 now? I remember
6.
7. How many?
6, right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
5, 6. There's 6 Infinity Stones. And I'm like, got it. And you're like, this one's about this stone. I'm like, got it. And he's like, how many does he have left? 2. Okay, got it. But it's like, how many timelines are there? Infinity. Oh, how many are we gonna see? I don't know. 3? 10? 1,000? Well, which ones are important? I don't know.
Well, that's the thing.
How many do we have to save? I don't know.
We're replacing
okay.
6. We're replacing 6 Infinity Stones with like 40 actors who have previously appeared in movies before. That's the replacement. Instead of the Mind Stone, we get Andrew Garfield.
Well, here's my theory on this one, and this is my crackpot theory. I'm putting on my tinfoil hat and ready to just go to the nut house. I think this has been Kevin Feige's plan all along, ever since he tried to tie in Spider-Man, X-Men with Iron Man, and he wasn't allowed to because of rights issues. I think this has been his plan the whole time, being like, I finally got Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, and Tobey Maguire in a movie, and they're in my universe. I did it. I won.
He's Palpatine.
Oh, I don't even want Hugh Jackman as Wolverine anymore.
Bad news.
Bad news.
I know. I'm just like, stop. Oh my God, you're 7 feet tall. You look nothing like Wolverine. Like
he's so
no one draws how long has he been Wolverine for? No one draws Wolverine like him. No one. No comic has been like, oh, we'll start drawing it like him. None.
I'll tell you, Mike, I'm so happy because like the MCU does things to the comics that sometimes I really don't like. That has been the one change for all of X-Men history. Wolverine has always been a short, muscly, kind of ugly dude.
The ultimate line had a time period where it was going pretty Hugh Jackman.
That's why I had to die.
Yeah. In the beginning, then they started like shifting back. Yeah.
And I'm not hating on it. It's just like, okay. Oh, it's like he's out. No, we're gonna bring him back from. Okay, Hugh Jackman. All right, you take your steroids. You get all buffed up again, and do your thing, and we'll love it. And then
here's what happened.
Now I'm just like, go do the Music Man. Like, go do Broadway. Get out of here. You did it. You did it, friend.
Here's what happened. Remembrance didn't do very well. The Sun didn't do very well, and he's like, I need a paycheck.
I need a new pool.
Yeah. No, he doesn't. He needs no paychecks. He needs that dopamine drip. He needs no paychecks.
But you're right.
People to like him.
You're right. I want to see him do the Music Man, as I know he's did on Broadway, I think. But I want to see him. I want to see him do that.
Like I want and get some young actor who looks like Wolverine in there to do some fun stuff.
Well, just to kind of put in the button on the fact that we're not talking about this list anymore. But the thing of like him returning, I have a theory that I really like to see Deadpool 3 do, which is that it is the last, like it's Deadpool going through the end of the Foxverse, and that's why it's this Wolverine. It's like the end of it will be like just before Secret Wars, Jonathan with Secret Wars, they did like this thing with like the last days of so and like everything would be white at the end because that was the universe ending. I want that to be the end of this movie because that's the universe ending.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but that was also Logan.
No, that's not the universe ending. That's just that's just that character dying.
I know, but it's all fine. But if we're talking about story stuff, it's like Logan. Wow, what a great send off. Good job.
Sure.
Oh, he's gonna be in Deadpool. Right. Wow, and he's in Deadpool too. It's gonna be great. And it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm just crotchety.
No, I get it.
But Loki.
Real quick, Ben, where did you put Loki again?
I put Loki number 9.
Okay, so you're around the same mid range as us. I'll be honest with you. I think I need to watch it again, and it would probably move more north. I don't think it actually probably belongs here in my list, but this is about the best I can justify.
But it's supposed to get a season 2. It's not supposed to. I mean, but it's incomplete, so it's like a weird.
That's also part of it where I was like, Loki's gonna go up. I'm gonna watch it later this year. I'm sure it'll move up, but right now it's an 8. I partially just a big hang up for me, and it's a very personal one, and I'm like, what am I gonna do about it? Is that I think Loki shifts into, I want to be a more moral person a little too easily for me. I don't think that his arc is as developed as I want it to be for him to end up being the person he's supposed to be for most of the show. That's me.
I only put Loki here because for me, I like the show quite a bit. but for me, the last 2 episodes are where the show really sings. That's the one where he's at the end of time with his variants, and then the stuff with Kang. I think that stuff is excellent, especially episode 5. I think is incredible. I have watched that scene of Richard E. Grant yelling glorious purpose before he dies so many damn times. I think that's brilliant, and a brilliant performance from him. And the stuff with Kang, stuff with the He Who Remains, I think is really great. I think it's incredibly ballsy to end that show with just Jonathan Majors acting his ass off.
Sure.
And I love all that. The only problem, it's not really a problem. It's just that I like the things that are above it more, and that's really all it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why I gave it a 5. Like it's really great. You know.
Now I agree with Sparks, and I also agree with Brandon that if I were to watch Loki again, because it has been a long time since I last saw it, it will probably jump up.
Mm-hmm.
The last episode because we get a bunch of episodes, like 3 episodes in a row, where they're very action packed, very high stakes. A lot of stuff is like stuff that keeps us on the edge of our seats. Richard E. Grant, glorious purpose, and all that great stuff. And the final episode being more calm and mostly dialogue, but it's great dialogue.
So good.
And Jonathan Majors is just putting on an absolute show. It is one of those shows that does subvert your expectations a little bit. I highly enjoy Loki. I love Owen Wilson in this show. I love Tom Hiddleston playing 2012 Loki again. And I do agree. I mean, yes, it is in the middle of my list, but it's still, to me, it's still top 10, and it probably will jump up north. It's just one of those things where it's like, after a rewatch, the more I stew on it, it's like, yeah, it's probably gonna go up there, but for now, this is where it is.
Yeah. Ryan, you had the highest of us all.
I did. I think it's a great show. Everything you guys said was all positives. I heard no negatives from any of you that weren't personal negatives. That show starts strong and it ends strong. For me, it is the only show on this list that is consistent the entire way through, where I don't have a dip even one episode. The sci-fi stuff of it is so fun. It is like the most expensive like Doctor Who episode you'll ever have. There's so much great multiverse stuff happening with like you said, Brandon, with the Richard E. Grant and all that. There's a battle of like 30 evil Lokis. Like it's just pure fun. I saw Alioth, the space monster from a stupid comic from the 80s. It's a great show. I have no issues with it, and it has a fun cliffhanger that makes me even more excited to watch more of it. And I've always liked Tom Hiddleston, but now having a dedicated show. Like that dude's got it, and he always had it. But like it just like he knows his character so well. And Sylvie, excellent side character, co-captain of the show. The great stuff with Kang, we already said it's great. All the stuff with the 3 robotic like leaders, that's just from the comics, and that's incredibly stupid, and I love it. They just get decapitated and they're robots. That's so like 1950s nonsense. No complaints. It is my favorite of these shows.
Yeah. Okay.
I've noticed a lot of this phase has a lot of good talking parts. Like I found myself getting really enthralled in quiet character moments more. And then I'm like, oh, it's a car chase scene, and being like extremely bored. But then like someone's just reaming someone out, or someone's like, they're quietly debating a small scene together. I'm like, wow, oh my gosh, this is great. Like this whole list is littered with those.
Right. Listening to you talk about it even makes me want to bump it up. Like it really is one of those things that I know what was happening.
Where did you have it again?
It's number 8.
No,
and like
that's not
and like what was happening is that I was organizing things at the top, and then I'd be like, Loki's too low, and Loki was even lower originally, and I'm like, no, that's got to move up. So I'm like, it's
I think that happened with me too.
It gets to the point where you're just like, this. There's no more time. This is my list. Like this has to just be my list for right now.
And sometimes it's
you gotta ship it.
It's just, I just love this more, and sometimes it just is that. Yeah.
All right. Black Widow.
Oh boy.
Black Widow is 15.
15. Yeah, me too. 15.
13.
16.
Interesting. 16. Wow, 16.
11. Now this is on the bottom. This is on the bottom of my yellow. So Loki's at the top of my yellow, and this is at the bottom of my yellow.
That's incredible.
I don't like this anymore.
You have to go first.
I have to go first? Why?
Yeah. I want to hear why it's at the bottom of the yellow and not in the red. I want to hear that.
Oh, there's just more that I didn't like. And you're gonna hate the ones I don't like, I think.
No, I'm gonna love it because I love to hear
it was fine. It was serviceable. I didn't like a lot of like the ending, but I really liked, I really liked the family the family dynamic was cool. I thought the villain was stupid. I thought the villain was completely mishandled. That was one where I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if there's just no villain? Just went home for Thanksgiving, and it was like, what a crazy family. I hope they bury the hatchet in this 1993 John Hughes movie. That movie.
If it was just a quest to find her sister again, and then both of them kind of wanting to figure out what happened to our parents and like what was that relationship, and it's just about that, they would never be so bold. But like it's like an A24 Black Widow.
That's what I really liked about it, when they're all around like the dinner table and they're just like bitching about stuff. I was like, this is a really good scene. Or like her what's her name? Florence
Pugh.
Is like talking to her dad, and it's like really weird, and it's like really real and awkward and stuff. There's some really good gems in there. And I love me some God, it's too late for me. My brain. The chick from The Mummy,
Rachel Weisz.
Rachel Weisz. She's great at it. Really good casting. And then it's like, but I have to take down the Red Room. I'm like, I don't care. It's been like 10 movies of you in the Red Room and making your slate clean. I don't care. I don't care.
And
like you're great.
And
it came out after.
That's the thing. This movie should have came out like immediately after Civil War. Well, this movie should have came out maybe before Civil War.
And here's my counterpoint: if they were going to releasing it when they did, I get angrier about it because there are 2 deleted scenes that I'm like, these should have been in the ending of the movie. And if they were, I would rank it higher, because there's one deleted scene where it's Ross after he captures her at the end, and he says, well, if someone destroyed the Red Room, that person really would be a hero.
Yeah.
And that's a hugely important dynamic for who she is at that point. And then instead of the dumb, here's a Quinjet, let's quietly not really acknowledge what's going on and just Avengers theme out, and here's some fireflies, goodbye,
she got her jacket.
End of movie. Instead, she goes to her old neighborhood and sees kids dressed as the Avengers and playing around, and a girl dressed as Black Widow points the thing at her, and it makes her smile. And it's a way better, like, what she meant to the world send-off, knowing that she's already going to be gone. So releasing it when it does, it lands better, it means more.
But it's not.
And both of those scenes, I'm like, why did you film these and not put these in the movie?
That is such a terrible ending. Just her, like, with this guy we don't know the name of, getting a Quinjet. Like, wow. Wow. Awful.
So this movie, it got to the bottom of my yellow because this really had to just go into, I clicked into, okay, it's Saturday night. Do you want to watch this one or this one? And it was like, oh, Black Widow. Do you want to watch this one or this one? Oh, Black Widow. And it kept going up. And then I was like, this one or this one? No, that's it. Oh, it's right here. Like,
rewatchability is a factor too. I absolutely like.
And Florence Pugh does a lot to make me want to watch this movie.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Oh, the whole family. That's what
So I have this one at 13. And honestly, I think I probably should have gone a little lower. This is kind of one of those times where I was like, this list just has to be done. Because I think 2/3 of this movie is honestly really good. I think it's a lot of fun. I think Scarlett Johansson's really good in it. I think Florence Pugh is great. There's a really solid first act and second act. Once we get to the Red Room, the movie completely falls apart and fumbles. And that's where my biggest issue lies. And if I close my eyes and pretend it's not Taskmaster. But like the thing of like, I think there's some really solid character work happening in the movie, and it's a fun kind of thriller, and there's some decent action scenes. I think the escape from the prison is really fun. There's some good character dynamics happening here. It's like Mike said, there's rewatchability to the movie. It's just, and I was watching this and I'm watching this again. I was sitting there, it's like, oh, this is a lot of fun. I'm actually really enjoying this. And then then this is like, okay, let's go up to the Red Room and fight Harvey Weinstein. And I'm like, you lost me.
But not even done that well. Weird, like a commentary on Weinstein that's not even done well enough. Like I wish that was better. I wish they paid off that opening about them being trafficked.
Yeah.
That is so somber and sets a tone. And I don't feel like the movie lives up to that.
Not opening. Even close. The movie, you think a movie is going to be a certain way after that opening. and you're like, no, it's just another movie. It's another movie.
Ben, thoughts on Black Widow before you fall asleep?
Because you're at 16, right?
16, yeah. It's just one above my dead last. I did not like it. Like, I knew this one and one other movie that we're going to talk about later. Those were automatically my bottom the second we figure out to do. Like, I had no questions about which two movies were going to be at the very bottom
is. God, sorry. Go ahead.
And to me, it's just forgettable. I mean, Florence Pugh was great. Everything, the family dynamic, there's some great scenes in there, but everything else is kind of forgettable. And also because they gave us this movie so far outside of or right after Endgame, it's kind of pointless. To me, it feels pointless. I mean, I wish we got this movie at the end of or right before or right after Civil War. I wish we got this movie right before maybe Infinity War or so, just like something.
If it had something, it should have come out in the Captain Marvel slot in between Infinity War and Endgame. That's where it belongs.
Yeah, if it had something to say about Black Widow, then maybe it would have merit. But like they cut the scenes where that was important, and then she's dead.
It's more about passing the torch.
That's what I was thinking, because like this film doesn't exist in a vacuum. There's a lot of MCU films that you could just arguably just be like, I want to watch this, and it exists on its own. I can divorce myself from the rest of the MCU, and it's still a pretty decent movie. In various degrees of that. Black Widow doesn't. It has to exist the way they structure the ending. It has to exist after Endgame, because the whole ending is like, and there she goes off to die. But if it had kept the scenes that Sparks was talking about, the 2 deleted scenes, it could have really sat. You could have just been like, oh yeah, this 10 years from now, you could be like, yeah, and this movie came out after Civil War, and you would never know that it came out after Endgame.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I'm Black Widowed out. What's next?
Okay.
Yeah.
What if?
Last.
Oh.
It's 16. It's only barely above Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
11.
Well, I'm at 14, Mike.
I'm at 13.
11?
Well, Mike's at 13.
No, I get
Mike's his own man.
Mike has free will.
Ben, you don't have free will, apparently. Why is it 11?
Well, to me, the highs are really high, the lows are low. I mean, I'm not saying it's the best, but I'm saying I enjoyed What If.
Ben, the methamphetamine of the Marvel universe.
The highs are so high, man.
The highs are so high and the lows are so low.
Look, I'm not saying What If doesn't have problems. It's number 11 for God's sake. I just liked there are parts of it more that I liked more of it, and then there are parts of it that I don't like as much. And to me, I figured like if you were to put this next to some things, I'd rather watch What If.
Man, I just wouldn't. Personally.
Yeah.
Wait, real quickly, because you guys have it the lowest. May I go next?
Yeah.
Because I'm at 13.
You and Mike, yeah.
Yeah, I just go back to, the as a whole, I don't quite find it the most rewatchable thing, but this is one of the few of the Marvel shows where I can just put on an episode, and it's just a standalone episode. And I think those episodes are really strong, and I really enjoy them. Like the Doctor Strange one, I go back to all the time. I think that is such a good episode. The Party Thor is a lot of fun. Infinity Ultron is one of my favorite designs to ever come out of the MCU. I think it's incredible. And I just kind of sit there going like, oh yeah, I want to watch Doctor Strange destroy the Marvel destroy the universe, because cool, I just put that on, and I can, because there's nothing tying it to anything else in What If. It is just that one episode. It's just that standalone thing. And so like I keep going back to those, and that's kind of why it's set so high for me.
Sure. Yeah. Mike?
Yeah. If it was like a Saturday morning cartoon, legit, that was like, oh, it ran for like 3-4 seasons, and like now you can catch and there was like 20 episodes a season, and it was all these what ifs, and it was like, oh man, this one's the best. But they had to make it go into that like, we're the multiverse Avengers. I'm like, oh my god, I don't care. And then like those last like 2 or 3 episodes were about that. Then I was just like, oh, this like sucks. Like, oh, these all strung together. Like you made the multiverse Avengers, and there's only like 6 of you? Oh, I thought there was infinite like what? Like it just they had to make it a series, and then I just didn't care. Man, when you do the multiverse stuff, when you can jump to infinite timelines, it really takes the weight out of stuff. It's almost like every time it feels like that scene in Loki where they're like, "Oh, you have all the stones just as paperweights." Like it just feels like it deflates the importance of what's happening in any one timeline when you start to introduce things, you know? I mean, that's kind of a problem. We'll get into a later movie, but I love the animation. I thought it looked great. I love me some Captain Carter. So like that was awesome to see that. And all the like Party Thor, all those things. Yeah, but once they tried to tie it together into like this, like that one actually like felt like, oh, let's watch another one. I mean, Bridget was like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, all right. You know, it just, I don't know what it was. It didn't have a je ne sais quoi. You know, what can you do?
I wish it
Sometimes
was
you
an
just
anthology.
lose.
I wish it could have just been an anthology. Then,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I also lean that direction. For me, it's that there are 3 episodes I really, really like, and then a couple in the middle that are like cool, and then 2 I truly just don't care for at all. And it's a bummer to say that, but like if I could judge just those episodes selectively, then the ranks would break up and it'd be different. But I have to judge it as a whole season. And as a whole season, it has incredibly low lows that I just have to factor in, and I don't like them more than the others.
I hear Sebastian Stan in my dreams. His awful voice acting. It's horrible. It's god awful. I don't usually have animation problems, but like I think the animation is not bad. I just don't particularly care for it. I think it could look nice and it could do some really cool things, but I find it pretty limiting, especially because now that I'm watching so many other things that I'm like, man, like I wish it looked like other things. But really,
that's
like,
a valid criticism. That's valid.
He said that's a valid criticism.
Oh, that's a valid. Okay, cool. The lows are so low, like it doesn't make me want to just watch any. And honestly, guys, like I read a lot of comics. I can read 1,000 what of comics that are better than all of these. Like if I'm gonna do this, I'm just gonna go to the source material. Like I don't need to watch a good episode of What If when I can read the plethora of incredible ones that are in the comics. Which is like my go-to anyway. I'm a comics guy. Mm-hmm. I found their choices like to be pretty boring at times too. Like Party Thor is a good episode, but like I just feel like specifically like the Captain Carter episode, I feel like Captain Carter is a cool character, but just repeating the exact same movie is boring as shit.
I really thought they were going to do something cool, and then it's just like, okay, all right. Yeah, you're exactly right. They did nothing with it. Like, what if Thor partied a lot? Yeah, he has a good party. You're right.
Yeah, it's fun. It's like, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just like I'm not getting a lot of value out of this.
And I think
it's like popcorn.
The episodes are beholden to the context of the MCU, and like that is the thing that can make them good and entertaining in their own way, but it is also the thing that limits them.
Yeah.
And I like those episodes where I think it excels, but it has to be a what if version of the MCU, and that comes with limitations. I still feel like those good episodes still don't do me dirty as Falcon and the Winter Soldier does.
That's fair.
So that's why it ends up where it does, but it's not as solid as I wish it was.
Yeah, sure. Hopeful for that season 2,
or as inventive as I wish it was. Anyway,
I eat up Infinity Ultron whenever I could get a figure of him. I've got like 3.
Sure. Yeah, it's a cool design.
Yeah, absolutely. The Watcher is very cool.
And having Ross Marquand come back is awesome.
Yeah, and the I think I was a little hotter on the What If Someone Murdered the Avengers episode when it just is Hank Pym just murdering everyone. I thought that was really cool.
That's one I like.
Yeah,
but don't love.
Star-Lord T'Challa.
That's a really good episode.
That's a really solid.
That's really? Oh, I don't like that one.
Oh.
This is funny because I listened to our discussion with Mike, and I was reminded that Mike did not like that episode because it was like the one that had just come out, so we were talking about.
Oh, good. I'm glad I'm consistent.
Mike was like, "Oh, poo on that. What are you guys talking about?"
Yeah, it's just like, "Hey, I'm T'Challa. I'm awesome. All right,
yeah,
great. You're awesome. You did it." You know.
Mike had valid points that I do think are worth listening to again. That other episode we did.
Mm-hmm.
So but let's look at that. Go hit that. Hit that link and find it.
So let's move on. Let's move on from What If to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Oh, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 12 Rings is number 12.
Number 12. Sparks?
Number 9.
Okay, I have it number 5.
Oh, thank God, me too.
Ooh.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I have it at number 8.
That's not bad.
This seems to be my middle. This seems to be like I asked like what was better than this and like what was worse than this. That was kind of my start. Like this was just seemed to be the solid middle of all these.
Yeah. I'll go first. I'm in the middle with this at number 9, and the really the detractor of Shang-Chi that puts it below other things I enjoy is that I just wish the third act was more about his dad than it ends up being.
1000%.
Once it stops being about the dad, I start not being interested. And everything before that, I love him. I love that actor. I love the movie. I love the action. That third act does me no favors. And that is what puts it below other things that I think do a lot of things I like more.
Yeah. Look, Emma, looking at my list now, like I don't have it in like the phases like Mike does, but looking at it, like it is kind of like my favorite ones, the middle ones, and the last ones. And like this is the middle section, and Shang-Chi just kind of is near the bottom of the middle section for me. I rewatched that third act, and it makes me mad because of how good a job the entire movie does to get to that point, just to throw it away to fight a big dragon. And then they have Katie become an incredible martial artist or an incredible bowsman archer in 5 minutes. It just takes away what the entire movie was building to. And it's Marvel. They were getting really good about not doing this. But then they did the big third act thing. And like, yeah, dragons are cool, but you know what also cool is cool? Like emotional like resolution and stuff. Which there still is some, but like you don't have to have a giant dragon get in the middle of it.
You know what's cool? Dragons. You know what's even cooler? Emotional resolution.
Yeah. For me, absolutely. As an adult, I ate dragons up when I'm a kid. They're still cool. Give me that stuff.
Mike, where was this in yours?
This was 8. This was my like emotional middle. Like it was. I mean, they did it. Like they the bus fight scene. He that guy showed up, right? A lot of fun. I love me some Jackie Chan. I'm a Jackie Chan connoisseur, and this definitely. There was some things where I was like, oh, they took that. Like they took that. They took that. Like they watched their good kung fu movies. Their gods among them, and like borrowed the correct things, you know. But I'm with Ryan, where it was like, oh, a big dragon. Oh, okay. Like it was almost this like. It was almost this like tone deaf giant blue laser in the sky. Like we want a giant blue laser in the sky, but it's a bunch of Chinese people. Let's use a dragon instead. You're like, oh, okay.
It might as well be the same thing. Like
and like I always wonder because they always end up defeating them, right? Because these are movies and you have to defeat them. That's fine. I get that. But I always wonder, like, so if they lost, does that dragon just in the world now, or does it go to New York? Does someone else have to fight it? Like
that's a what if episode.
But it's not because it's in the MCU. So it's like all these villains. I mean, we'll get to some things that these are some reasons for other stories where I'm like, how does this fit? You like, so let's say the dragon's always locked up. Did the dragon get disappeared by Thanos's thing, or is it not, or is it in a different realm?
No, okay, real quickly, I'm going to put a stop to this. Hold on.
Is this place in Earth? You have to get there going through the bamboo?
First off, the thing is not a dragon. It is a special type of creature. There's a dragon in the movie, yes, but the thing is not specifically a dragon. He's not on Earth. He's in a parallel kind of pocket dimension that these people live in. So should Thanos' snap have worked in that thing, he probably wouldn't have been dissipated.
That's not. Yes, thank you. That's not a specific nitpick. I'm just using that as a larger example of how does this fit into. The waitress who hits on Captain America in Avengers, right? Like they cut her scenes out, but what's her name? Ashley Johnson.
Ellie from the Last of Us.
Yeah, like is that thing coming from the pocket dimension? Is she like, oh my gosh, why didn't Shang-Chi defeat him? Like, right? Like these it's getting the MCU is getting so big because they are comic books. It's like, to me, it's starting to kind of cave in on itself. So I did love
the bigger the stakes, the kind of less interested you get.
Yes, you're gonna find my the ones I like. The stakes are like really nice and small, and I'm like, ooh, okay, what's going on here? You know.
Well, Ben,
but it's an 8. It's an 8. You know.
Tell me about
Ben. You and I have it at 5.
Yeah.
Why is your 5?
I absolutely love this movie.
Sure.
I think it's fun. You guys are like, oh, the dragon, yada, yada. I love that shit. To me, this is like,
buddy, let me just back you up. When Shang-Chi is running on that dragon, I eat that shit up. I think it is. Yeah, I get it. I hear y'all. I'm with you. I get it. Yeah, more dad stuff. I hear you. But man, that third act is such a blast. There's a bit where he's just flying and doing like martial arts things, as those 10 rings are swirling around the dwell in the darkness's belly. And I'm like, yeah, I love this shit. There's the Jackie Chan fighting, as Mike put out. Like, there's some of the coolest fight scenes in the MCU. I think are so much fun. The fight with the guy with the mask, I forgot his name. Honestly, incredible fight sequence. The thing on the side of the building, oh, awesome. I'm in love with this movie.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Oh, real quickly, Ben, I interrupted Ben. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, I mean, you're saying a lot of things I was going to say, but also to me, this movie is just fun. This movie is a fun time. I have a fun time. I have a fun time every time we talk or I talk to Shang-Chi with a Kisi Casual, and I really enjoy this movie. I mean, it's been a long time since I last seen it so if I do a rewatch, it might go down a little bit.
Sure.
But I remember the initial feelings I had coming out of this movie, and they were all positive. I actually, and even when I saw my roommate rewatching the movie on Disney Plus when it finally dropped, I'm just sitting there with a big smile on my face. And I just love all the characters in it. I love the Wong. I love the end credits bit where they're like, and they're singing the karaoke, Hotel California. And yeah, I just really like this movie. It's a fun action movie. I think it introduces Shang-Chi into the universe very well. Mm-hmm. And I cannot wait to see Simu Liu even more. And I just really enjoy this. It's one of those joys that I can't really describe. It's just, I like this thing a lot, and I can't describe why, but I do.
It's a great martial arts movie for sure.
Marks?
Oh, you're right. If we were for me personally, if I was putting it down, it was just to justify why maybe the other things might be better. But there's this. Like I said, this is like tentpole middle. Everything like it's great. You know, like you're right. You know.
Sparks, so you were trying to say something.
Yeah, I remember when I came out of it, and I was very positive. This was in my top like 5 or 6 at the time of all the MCU like coming right out of it, just because I was so hot on it. Mm-hmm. And really, it is this one single thing, which is not necessarily that it's about the dweller within and the fight with him. It's that the emotional closure with his dad doesn't feel complete to me. I get that he sacrifices himself for the son in the moment. I don't feel like that ends the story the way it was supposed to. A version of what could have given me more of what I was looking for is where he instead fights with his son to correct the mistake and dies in that fight. That would mean more to me about seeing the two of them work together in their last moments rather than just the sacrifice and I'm out of the movie now. That's the thing that just like undercuts what is a incredibly well performed and created actor by Tony Leung, who's exceptional in the film.
He is.
Frankly, I think the best performance in the MCU that year is him. And
his dance fight with his future wife is incredible. That's my favorite scene in the movie. When he goes to invade her place and then they have like a sexy dance fight. I'm like, I love it.
And it is just that one problem I have with it, that the other things I like more get above it because of it. And I still really like the movie overall. Mm-hmm. He doesn't go out the way I feel he deserved to.
Sure. Okay, let's move on. Come on. Eternals.
Eternally.
God, I'm so excited.
Eternally grateful. I went last time, so I'm not going to say where this is.
Number 11.
No way. Number 11.
Interesting.
I know where Ben is, and I'm so mad.
I'm so glad I rewatched this movie.
6.
Yes.
No way.
Brandon, awesome. I love it.
I love that.
Ben.
It's last.
17.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew.
Mike?
Oh man.
Yeah. I was 12.
Interesting.
All right.
This is I made in my in my green, yellow, red. This is actually orange. This is like this line, this thin line between the yellow and the reds of just like, what's going on here? What's going on?
Yeah.
Was this a great movie? Was this a horrible movie? What is this? And I realized today what it was. And it's just too big. Again, my just too big. Like, I like when these mystery movies have reveals, and the reveal is something like, like, oh, that wasn't his sister, that was his mother. And you're sitting there going, oh my God, okay. But in these movies, and especially in the Eternals, it's like we get to the twist, and the twist is like, we're robots that have been here forever, that go interdimensionally, and she was a good guy, but then she was pretending to be a bad guy so she could figure out that this guy was actually the bad guy, and then you have to make the robot inside Earth wake up. That's what you're supposed to do, but you're not going to do. And like, what? This is too, like, this reveal is too big. Like, that's the twist is like a half hour to explain. Like, the twist. Do you know what I mean? And so I'm just like, it's huge. And then like, Sprite wants to be older. Is that important? What? Like, that's why what? Too much. This movie, it looks great. The characters are fun. Maybe this should be a series. Like, that's the one where it's like, should this have been 8 episodes?
I agree with you. I think this movie bites off a lot. I think there's just too many characters, and that is the Eternals, and like, they don't all get serviced, unfortunately. When I first watched this movie, I didn't really like it, and then I rewatched it, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing now. They often hear, like, when a new Marvel movie is coming out, like, this is not like the other Marvel movies. This is like this. It's like this. Like, Eternals is not like the other Marvel movies. Mm-hmm. It is slow. It is sometimes boring. It is sometimes just a lot of people talking for a long time. And you know what? The second time watching it, I ate it up. I liked it. It's still lower on my list. I still think there's got a lot of problems, but like, I think the final action scene is awesome. It is like the best a speedster has ever been in live action. I love that final action scene, and like, seeing them all utilize their powers, and like, seeing a celestial of that size on the big screen, or on a TV or whatever. It's still massive in scale. And that is again, like, I love comic book shit. And that is like pure, like, Jack Kirby, like, yo, that thing's bigger than a planet, and it's right there. Really, really cool. And I really appreciate them trying to make a movie like this, and getting a director like Chloe Zhao, who makes small art house movies, to, hey, do that, but with $200 million. And not everything worked, but I'm glad that it got to get made this way.
It definitely is a situation of, I appreciate the swing so much, and I'd rather see more swings like this than misses, because more of this movie is a vibe that I can get with than not. And I like all the family of the Eternals dynamic. And honestly, if they hadn't made one deviant sentient and not given them enough motivation, if the deviant just hadn't become a sentient being as part of the plot, and they just stayed focused on the Icarus and the family and all that stuff, this movie would go way, way, way higher. And I honestly, if I rewatched it this week, because I haven't gotten to rewatch it for a while, it would probably be higher, but I didn't get to, because once Brandon told me he did and he put it up, I was like, oh, I probably should, but I just didn't have time, because I think it would bump up. I totally vibed with this. And I remember specifically being on our podcast review, Mike, you might not know, we did the Eternals, and all three of them downgrades, no, didn't like. And I was like, oh man, I kind of enjoyed it.
I wasn't ready for it, and then I prepared myself, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, now I'm meeting you halfway, instead of wanting the next, Marvel movie, which is not what it is. It has Marvel elements for sure, but like, it is its own long, weird movie, which is really interesting. Yeah,
I'm ready to talk now.
Yes,
I was wrong about the Eternals, 1000%. I was wrong. I texted Sparks when I was done with the movie. I was wrong. I watched this movie again this week because I said to myself, I don't have time to watch the entirety of Phase 4. I need to watch my question marks, my Black Widows, my Eternals. What is low on my list right now that I need to rewatch? Because I'm like, what if my opinion has changed? I'm pretty sure about my opinions on everything else except for those two. And so I watched both of them. And watching Eternals, I have two issues with it. I think the love story between Icarus and what's-her-face, Cersei, stale, bland, doesn't really do much for me. But the deviant subplot doesn't work. cut it out. It's fine. It cut it out. It changes nothing in the movie. However, what this movie is doing well really worked for me the second time around. Ryan, you mentioned Makari's Speed Force run. Her super speed is incredible. All the powers are so well created and portrayed on screen. The cast works pretty well together. The scale is wild. The locations it's so cool to see Marvel film on real locations. Like it's so weird that needs to be a positive, but it is, like, because a lot of Marvel is filmed on a set or in front of one of the films that went way down was because it was filmed on a VR screen. But the thing of like watching this movie, what it was doing, the action was so much fun. The final fight with Icarus is incredible. Like, honestly, it's incredible. It's so well staged, it's so well shot, it's so well executed. I was enamored with it. The performances are good. Like, Angelina Jolie doesn't get a lot to do, but what she does is really interesting. I was enraptured with Eternals. I was agape when the movie ended, and I forgot Erishim. The celestial that's coming out of the ground. And like, Mike, you totally are right that the twist is like 30 minutes too long. But honestly, I ate it up. I love shit like that. You want to throw in goofy ass sci-fi shit that doesn't make any sense? Give it to me. Give it to me. Was wrong.
You're not wrong. Yeah, you're not wrong. That's what's tricky about this whole list. Ben.
Last.
Yeah.
Point counterpoint.
It to me was boring. It's forgettable. I mean, I'm trying to remember parts of this movie. Like when you were talking about the sci-fi, I was like, oh yeah, that did happen. I completely forgot about it. The only parts about this movie I mostly remember is the ending, obviously, when the Celestials like coming out of the planet, and the 2 post-credit scenes. Other than that, I completely forgot about the twist. I completely forgot about all the other stuff. I will not say that there are some good things in this movie. And and I haven't seen it since theaters, so, and maybe my opinion will change should I rewatch this. But for the longest time, when I would stew on Eternals, and every time I would see Eternals, I go, "Oh yeah, that wasn't that good." To me, it just wasn't. It didn't have the stuff for me that made me like it. And once again, it might change should I rewatch it. But I didn't want.
I want to ask you, Ben. Do you think expectations hurt you on that first showing?
I don't know if it was expectations. That's okay. That's an interesting question, because I knew going into it that like it was going to be more of an art house film, and I was like, I'm down with it. But when I was watching it, I was like, I mean, there's good stuff in it, but I was just bored.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's just me being too much. It's like I want my comic book fantastic popcorn explosion time. But it just, to me, just seemed like the Eternals. I don't know how to describe it.
You're not an art house guy, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, no shit. But at the same time, I don't
Ben's
know.
throwing up hands.
Yeah, I don't know. Just something about the Eternals. When I first saw it, and the more I thought about it, and even to today, I just don't like it.
You just don't vibe with it.
Exactly. I just don't vibe with it. Am I willing to do a rewatch of it? Of course I am. I am willing to do a rewatch of it. Maybe my opinion will change. Maybe I'll come out like Brandon or Sparks or whomever. But as of now, I don't vibe with the movie. I just don't.
Sure.
I just think it's the work.
Makes sense. I get it.
Yeah, I get you. I really need you, not immediately, sometime in the future, to just really close to each other watch Eternals and Falcon and Winter Soldier again, and you tell me which one is really the bottom of this list of those two. Okay.
Anyway, Falcon and Winter Soldier. Oh, I would watch Eternals. Yeah,
that's sure the thing. Falcon and Winter Soldier is bad. Yeah. It just so doesn't work anymore. Anyway, that's enough.
Right.
Captain America: New World Order coming soon.
Moving on from Eternals is Hawkeye.
10.
Right?
10.
Yeah.
I have it at 11.
I have it at 13.
All right.
Number 1.
Whoa!
I love it. I love that.
Oh my god, I love that
You
so
love
much.
Florence
Wow.
Pugh.
Loved Hawkeye. Loved Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Just had me hook, line, and sinker. Like all of it. Start to finish, I was like, this is great. All the characters. I mean, it starts with the Rogers musical. All the actresses are wonderful. And it's because we didn't, I think a lot of the stuff too is we didn't get a Hawkeye movie. So I wasn't annoyed with Hawkeye. I was like ready for this tiny adventure. And like the arrows were cool. They used all of them very interestingly. Low stakes, you know, like the whole, like in this whole phase is about getting a kid. Like the phases are about like phase 1 is like we're young and pew, pew, pew. And then phase 2 is like oh maybe like the world is a lot more complicated than we thought it was. And then phase 3 is like your dad died. Like, oh no, now you're getting it is like you know, like all these characters' dads die. And like, what does that mean? And they're just mirroring, and it kind of lines up exactly where I'm in life. Like when the movie started out, that's exactly what I was doing, and I'm the perfect case study in my life. And so now phase 4 is like, what happens when you have a kid? I'm like, I don't know. And it's like, yeah, let's have a show about it. And so Hawkeye was that perfect, like the perfect mentor, but like the mentor is rad. I realized that main characters die from crazy wounds, but their mentor just like a bullet to the ear, and they're like, oh my god, go on without me. Like the mentor is always a bullet in their shoulder. They're like, I'm done. Like, you know, like Qui-Gon Jinn was stabbed in the gut, and they're like, no. But Anakin, he's burnt, arms, limbs cut off, thrown in lava, dragged out, and they're like, no, he's going to be in like 7 more movies. Don't even worry about it. He's
alive. There were like 2 Star Wars shows that came out last year where multiple people got like stabbed in the stomach and they were fine. So like,
yeah, but so I loved Hawkeye getting to mentor this girl, and I thought she was great. And then the Florence Pugh was just like perfect in this movie. Like them fighting in their ballroom gowns, I was like, oh my god, I'm in heaven. Like when they're both in their ballroom gowns, and then they rip off their ballroom gowns and they're in their costumes, I'm like, this is the greatest show I've ever seen. And then everyone just looked great. Low stakes, nice little thing. He's got to get back this watch, and he's got to be secret about it. And then I was like, ooh, I like this. It's a series, so took its time. Kingpin, I like it. Bring him back in from okay. Oh, this is nice. Yeah, number 1, loved Hawkeye.
Real quickly, Ryan has made me once again mad at Obi-Wan Kenobi. So, but yeah, I think I don't disagree with anything you said. Everything you said like are reasons why I liked the show. It's just for whatever reason, it's just I liked everything on top of it more.
This is one of those personal me things. Like I'm not super hot on Jeremy Renner as an actor. Like he's good, but like I'm not going out of my way to watch him. So like I think he's good in the show, but like if there were like a different actor in this show, it might be higher on my list. Is what I'm saying. Like the show's great, but that's just my own personal thing. Haley Steinfeld, on the other hand, incredible. Love her.
Yeah, right?
I would watch her and everything. Same with Florence Pugh. Their episode together. Tell me more about Macaroni, please.
They looked in their costumes. They looked amazing. Like everything she was in, she was beautiful in it. And I think, and what really sold this for me, honestly, it's that he like comes home and ices his knees. I'm like, oh, I get that. Like I loved that part of it, where like his wife is like, oh, you're gonna be sore, and he's like, oh my god, and he like wraps the ice around all his knees and his elbows, and he's just sitting in that chair, and I'm like, oh my god, I totally get that. Like
I think there's a lot of really
character I can relate to, and then just
there's a lot of really good humor with that. Like when they're just like, how'd you lose your hearing? Is like any number of things, and just goes to the montage of the loud thing
of like grenades and like Thanos punching him in the head, just like all these things. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it was this wonderful tiny little story that I could really relate to, and like getting drunk and like showing her how to flick a quarter to turn, and that came in that like it's like a great scene, and it pays off in the end. You're like, okay, this is actually doing all the things that I would complain that other series don't do. Like this is actually doing, and then it's Christmas. Oh, it's a Christmas story, and at the end he gets to go home and I love that Christmas ending of like, oh, and meet my new friend on my adventure. Would you like to stay for Christmas? And like the wife's like, oh, of course. Oh, we have all like love it.
You are making me feel reaffirmed completely. And when we were doing the Hawkeye discussion, I'm like, I think this might be one of the best MCU shows. And then you're just going through everything, and I'm like, yeah, Hawkeye was the shit. And it genuinely make me feel like probably I should have put this one higher because it resonated with me too even then.
I remember Vera Farmiga's villain character not being so hot, at least for me. Yeah. Although Kingpin, seeing him was pretty cool. That was really sweet.
Here's my thing about the Kingpin thing. Lately, I've begun. Kingpin was around the time where I was getting really tired of the fact that all of these Marvel shows had a last episode villain reveal. Kingpin they do introduce in the second to last episode, in fairness, but like still there's still like, oh, there's the thing, but and there was some difference with him. There was some other differences with him because he was like, they were like, there's this other guy who's around and we don't want to get him involved and blah, blah, blah. And so like there was kind of this build up to revealing that it was in fact Kingpin, but there was still that kind of sense of like, even at the time where I was like, yeah, okay, we're just last episode, new villain. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I love the tracksuits. Like what a stupid gang, but it's so much fun. Yeah, it's so much fun though. And like just having a show where there's just proper mentorship. Like, I love how he's like, you're a kid. And he's like, what are you, like 18? It's like, I'm 22. And he's like, oh, same thing. That's so real. Like when you're like 45 and you fought in like the Avengers, you're just like, I don't care. But like, what a great, like, there's no other story that's that. I mean, maybe the Spider-Man, Iron Man, but that's way up here. Like they're so powerful. And she's just like, I like archery too. Like, and I love that she saw him in the Battle of the Avengers and like focused in on him, because now all these stories also have a line of fandom. Now they're not only are they catering to me, the old guys who have been through this. I'm like, oh, I'm having a kid. Oh, I get this. But now they're also catering to the kids who were really young when these movies came out, and now they're going to Comic-Con and they're like dressing up and they're like, oh, I'm a big fanboy for this one hero. What if I was the sidekick? What if I was able to? Like they're really able, and I loved it. Oh, it looked great. Oh, so much fun.
You bring up an excellent point about with Hawkeye, but I think it's true of just this phase in general, is that something that this whole phase is doing is post the events of Endgame, like the Avengers might have been known, but now they are pop culture themselves. Rogers the musical, all kinds of things that we see throughout multiple properties in phase 4. But Hawkeye is the one where you get to see Hawkeye looking at that happening, and how that reflects on him and what he thinks of the fact that they're now celebrity and what that really means. And that also makes me really, really like Hawkeye. I think there's so much value in that. Hawkeye was really good. Haley Steinfeld carries it, and Florence Pugh sails it, and it's Hawkeye's really good. I don't have a lot of complaints about it.
The more we talk about Hawkeye,
real quickly, Ben, I have one thing I want to say, which is that I should have put this higher. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the same thing. The more we talk about it, it's like, damn it, I feel bad putting it that low on the list. But it was one of those things where it's like, I got to find a place for it because it's been a while since I watched it, and it is perfect. And my main takeaway is how much I love Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop. I absolutely adore her.
So
and
good.
Her and Florence Pugh steal the show, and I love
it. They had such good chemistry. Probably so much fun on set, getting all that stuff done.
It's genuinely baffling because this phase, I think in general, and we'll get into it later, is so built up of kind of give you your new potentials for team leaders and Avengers and all this kind of stuff. And the fact that like, I don't know anybody who watched Hawkeye and didn't go, well, Haley Steinfeld and Florence Pugh are incredible. I will watch them in anything. And the fact that they didn't immediately greenlight some project with both of them is baffling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know Florence Pugh showing up, but we don't know anything about Haley Steinfeld.
When we get to my number 10, you'll know why I feel like I should have put this higher.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Spider-Man No Way Home.
Numero uno.
Yep. Number one.
Number one?
Number one.
It's number 2 for me.
Number 3 for me. So I mean, you already know what my number one is. So
I'm so glad you like it.
I was honestly nervous you were gonna be like 15.
No. It was good. Like there's a lot of things to not like about it, but it like capped off that trilogy really well. I think how they dealt with Aunt May's death was like perfect and like really earned it, and really they like all the mistakes they could have made, they didn't. And they like earned all the beats, and like him being like, we should send them back, and like, no, we have to help them. Like, oh, this is a question. Like, they're gonna go all back to their universes and die, or can I rehabilitate them? That's an interesting question. Let's explore this a little bit. The only things you could maybe like, you could knock points off for is like the Doctor Strange in it, but it was fine. It still worked. It worked with the ending. You know, like it started to get a little bit too big, but then they're like, no, let's make it personal. Let's make it about him and Aunt May.
Literally, what Doctor Strange is doing, like,
he's like, let's like, is this story getting too big? Oh, let's make it smaller.
This is my number one, but I'll rewatching this now for the third time. It's not like it's a bad scene, but the mirror dimension fight when Spider-Man is on a train with like 8 trains, I was like, it's just like cool visual. This isn't doing anything for me anymore. The first time I saw it, it was really great, but like this doesn't add anything except that Peter knows math, which is cool. But like that is such gobbledygook. When like I'm just like this is fine, this is whatever. Everything else I really love about the movie.
I thought it was a good ending to the trilogy too. Like they did him in reverse, because it was funny. It was like, wow, he's starting off like everyone loves him and life's great, and then they're like, nope. Let's keep stripping him away till he's that friendly neighborhood Spider-Man that's just broke and trying to figure it all out.
We rewatched this one this week, and because it was motivated by me, because like there are people out there who are talking about it, and they're like, you know, once I got out of seeing it at theaters, it didn't really work for me at home anymore. And I was like, wait, really? Does it not work? Because I think it's pretty good. And when we talked about it, we had just watched the Tobey Maguire stuff and the Andrew Garfield stuff in the lead up. So going into it, it's not just that I think it's a good wrap up for the Tom Holland story. I also think it delivers on who the characters became for Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, then picks up with the villains where it should. It's impressive how much they give to those characters. The fact that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were not turned into, they're just at the Statue of Liberty. They just like come through at the very last moment and do quick cameos to help like win the fight, and that's it. But are instead in the last like 35 minutes of the movie really, really impresses me. And it really works. And then Willem Dafoe just giving 110% as the Goblin, like going nuts.
Yeah.
I love it. It's such a treat. Yeah. It's such a treat to not just fans of Tom Holland Spider-Man, but to all the Spider-Men. And that's really, really rewarding. It's really wonderful.
Really, one of the reasons why I put this movie number one, and why I still regard this movie as it's a really fantastic movie, is really fun. I mean, yes, it is a popcorn movie. It does give into that nostalgia of us growing up in the 2000s and beyond, watching the Tobey Maguire films, watching the Andrew Garfield films. But what I love about this movie is that yes, they're in there, but this is still Tom's film, and this is him like, I want to help, and it's him being what Spider-Man is. Trying to help people, trying to get them back home safely, not trying to kill anybody. And I love what they did with Aunt May. I love what they did when they brought in Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. I thought that was perfect. I was like, that was perfect. Yeah. And like Spark said, it wasn't just a glorified cameo. They were part of the story at a part where they had to be there at Tom Peters' lowest. And it was. And of course, just their interactions together, just seeing the 3 Spider-Man on top of the Statue of Liberty talking to each other. It's like, I love this. I mean, it just brings me happiness. But that three actors who I know as Spider-Man, who like one of them I grew up with as Spider-Man, and just see them on screen, all 3 of them together, just bantering. It's great. I love it.
If I may just bounce off that real quick, just the difference between, and I enjoy it, seeing Patrick Stewart as Xavier in Multiverse of Madness and doing I know him. He's from being Xavier and other things, to giving Andrew Garfield's Peter a moment where he catches MJ and gets really emotional to the point where she's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm just remembering something that's very traumatic that you would know if you've watched my movie." And there it is. And carrying that on as this emotional weight of the character shows something that's so much deeper than just, we wanted to throw these characters in this movie. We thought about how to emotionally invest in the characters being in this movie. And that's something that I think all multiverse stories where they're pulling in old characters have to prioritize for them to work, like really work.
So there's been a lot of talk around Star Trek Picard season 3, which is bringing back the cast of the Star Trek Next Generation in its entirety. And there's been a lot of talk about nostalgia. And is this show dealing with nostalgia, going hardcore into nostalgia, where the first 2 seasons haven't, to their detriment. But the 3rd season, there's been a lot of talk around tasteful nostalgia. What does that mean? Is there such a thing as tasteful nostalgia? Is there a way that nostalgia can be not weaponized? Is there a way that nostalgia can just be there to inform a story and be interesting and not be a way to get people to cry at the end of a movie because they were just like, look at me poking you with this nostalgia? And I think Spider-Man No Way Home does that. I think Spider-Man No Way Home does that really well. And one of the things that I think Spider-Man No Way Home does incredibly well is that it's a really good movie about Tom Holland's Peter Parker. And then the next 2 Spider-Man show up. And then it's still a really good movie about Tom Holland's Peter Parker. They don't overstage him, but it's also a really good movie with them in it. I think the movie is a masterclass of balancing nostalgia, story. What does the movie need to be to end the trilogy? To end this trilogy of Tom Holland Spider-Man? What does this movie need to be in regards to these villains? Because the villains of those movies were so tragic. They had things happen to them that was really that caused them to become these villains. What does that mean? With the great power comes great responsibility. Maybe they don't have to die, and having that be the crux of the movie. And then just kind of having this vindication to have Andrew Garfield be the standout Spider-Man for a lot of people was just really personal to me, because like he's always been my favorite Spider-Man since I saw him in that first Amazing Spider-Man movie. Like it's a stupendous movie that I also find endlessly rewatchable. I did a cruise, sure, whatever. I'll throw that in. I did a cruise a while ago, and on the TV, there were 2 movies that I would always rewatch no matter where they were. It was Top Gun Maverick and Spider-Man No Way Home. No matter where those movies were at their time that I saw them on TV, I would rewatch them.
He was on the toilet for 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
That's right. You watched both of them.
When I was flying to England, we had Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness were available for me to watch on my flight. I watched them both back to back, and I loved them, and I had a blast.
I think
rewatching just even while I'm on a plane, it's not like the best environment to watch a film in, but I'm watching No Way Home, and like the scene where Dr. Octopus comes out, and you see Norman Osborn flying the glider. I'm just like, ooh, there they are.
If you like, I understand. I think if you're cynical, you won't like this movie. I think if like we talked about earlier, if you don't meet this movie halfway and you just view it as, oh, you're just getting those other actors from those other movies for extra money, like if that's the way you want to view this movie, that's fine. But I think that's a disservice to what this movie actually is, because there are other movies that do this. Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness is a movie I really like, and I do think that Patrick Stewart one is a little, look, we got the guy, isn't that cool? Whereas like No Way Home, like it feels important to the story and important to the character, and that's always what it's about. It's about the character. Like in No Way Home, like it's the best of the 3 Spider-Man movies. And you are right, Mike. Like it is a reverse Spider-Man story. Tony starts a young apprentice. He starts like a millionaire, right? And now he is alone, broke in New York. And like if we don't get another Spider-Man movie, that's going to be a huge bummer, because I really like Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
Really, I think this is a perfect end. If we didn't get another one and this is how it ended, I'd be like, oh, that's kind of a beautiful little send-off.
It is a beautiful send-off, but now that we're here and we have like the Spider-Man from the comics, like I want him to do that now. I would love for because like as much as I like those other movies, like those aren't regular Spider-Man movies or Spider-Man comics. Like he's hanging out with Iron Man and like doing all the drone shit. I'm like, I just want a kid doing stuff with a Kingpin. You know what I mean? I just want that.
Oh, you mean like Hawkeye?
Yes.
You mean like
yes, exactly.
You mean number one? Oh, yes.
Exactly.
I see.
All right.
I just want him to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yes, I love that he went to space. That's
That was
great. But like
in the
if that
first
shouldn't be,
movie when
like,
he's like, in the first movie he was like giving directions to people and being like, whose bike is this? You're like, oh, this is really good.
I love that. I want a whole movie of just him being Spider-Man in New York. But you know, the MCU is what it is. But yeah, No Way Home, my favorite of the MCU movie so far in this phase. Cool.
All right. Moon Knight.
Oh, Moon Knight. I have it at 14.
14.
Damn, bro.
14. You guys are really matching up lately. I have it at 15.
Yep.
I have it at number 10.
That's okay.
I have it at 14.
All right.
Wow.
Interesting.
Look at this
Right?
synergy.
Yeah.
I want to
I
go
was
first
definitely-
this time. I was really hot on this show when it first came out, and I still really like Oscar Isaac's performance. I think it's really good. There's a lot of changes that the series makes. Some of them I'm into, but the more I kind of sat with it, the more it soured on me. And this is not the first MCU project for Phase 4 that this has happened to. There's another one that we'll talk about, but this one like really started to kind of be like, yeah, okay, but actually maybe this shouldn't have done that. Maybe this shouldn't have done that. I'm not talking about the kaiju fight at the end. I love that. Talking about like maybe the final fight scene at
Yeah, Mike.
maybe the final fight scene shouldn't have been a blackout sequence, and we just like that's a bummer. But you know, sometimes, but a positive. The fight sequence with Lyra,
Layla.
When the two of them are fighting and he's switching between Mr. Knight and Moon Knight, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I like that. I thought that was cool.
For sure.
But yeah, I soured on it, unfortunately. So it kind of like shot right down.
No, I did the same thing. I really like Moon Knight as a character, and like if this is the one time you have to give me a Moon Knight show, like this is the thing you give me, and I'm like, all right, sure, okay, sure. I really wish the suit wasn't CG, because sometimes it looks great, and sometimes I'm like, wow, I could definitely tell that's not a person. That's not real. I liked Ethan Hawke. He's fine. He's good. I just think about that finale. I'm just like, I didn't like either of the confrontations, whether they're big or small. So like, I think, man, a lot of these shows start with really good first episodes, and that's what I always think of. And then I'm like, yeah, but the whole, what about the whole? It definitely sour.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had two things I want to say real quickly about that. One, which is that the episode where they're in the asylum, I like that, honestly. I think that's a good episode. Solid writing there. Two, as a Jewish man, I personally don't see a lot of the problematic Jewish elements because my Jewish heritage is not as intrinsic to who I am as it is to some. But I do implore, when we're talking about something like this, to listen to people who it is more important, because I do think there's value in that conversation.
Yeah, I think that's solid. I think that for Moon Knight, it's that Oscar Isaac's performance and Layla are the things that elevate it, and then so many other elements I'm like, this is confusing writing. These are scenes that I'm like, I don't know why these are here, or character motivations or God motivations don't make sense. And
all the temple stuff.
Dude, it's really it's really hard for me to get past the gods being like, oh yeah, no, Ethan Hawke, former person who was a vessel to Khonshu, you should walk in here and just like see where we put his statue. You have that right for some reason.
Worst trial
There's no
I've
reason
ever
we
seen.
should distrust you. Like, I don't get it. There's like Oscar Isaac's performance is immaculate, but it doesn't change. The story doesn't service him.
Yeah.
No, it had the same problem as the Eternals for me, where it was just like, you're like, oh, okay, he's blacking out. Oh, he's two people? Oh my God, that's crazy. Oh, he's a vessel for, one of them's a vessel for the god, and one of them's like a black ops guy. Okay. wait, no, but one of them's actually a like stressed because he was beaten as a kid. Okay, wait, he's in heaven. Wait, wait, how do you go to this heaven? Wait, hold on, how do you get out of this heaven? Wait, hold on, like it just was like. So it's like, oh, the God changed the stars. Did everyone see that?
Yes.
Like,
yeah. People on Earth are freaking out.
This was the same thing where it was just like, what world is this in? This was like the Shang-Chi where it's like, what world is this in? What happens if he loses? Do the Egyptians take over? What?
I remember when it got to the stars episode, we talked about it in the review for that episode where it was like, I could just imagine like people post the 5-year gap of people disappearing, see that happening, are just like holding on to family, like it's coming. This is it. This is the moment. Like how many times are you MCU. A doomsday prepper who's like, I know at some point this is all gonna implode.
Living in the MCU is all.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? More doomsday preppers.
Going real quickly back to Spider-Man: No Way Home. You know what Mike reminds me of right now? And now twice with Eternals and this. Tom Hardy at the end of Spider-Man: No Way Home trying to get everything straight as to what's happened.
Oh my god! You're right.
Just trying drunkenly. Wait, there's a guy who's made out of iron, and he like snapped his fingers, and like there's a purple guy. And the guy's like, "Hey man, that purple guy like wiped out my family, so have some respect."
Big green guy. Yeah.
God.
I mean, he's not the big. That's what you remind me of right now. I think it's very funny.
That's me. Well, thank you. I'm glad I could help. But yeah, Ben, Moon Knight. But then like. Homegirl is like, oh, sorry, Ben. I just want to say Homegirl was beautiful when she's the Egyptian, when she gets her Egyptian superhero. You're like, so good. Whoa. Like this is some good stuff. But yeah, overshadowed by all that other stuff. Okay, sorry, Ben, go.
No. Moon Knight, I was also pretty hot on it. I still am somewhat hot on it, but definitely Moon Knight is one of those shows that could probably go up or down for me on another rewatch. Probably down a little bit. I still enjoy it a whole lot. I still think it's fun. Oscar Isaac, I think he's amazing as all the characters that he played as. I do get that how it's like what Mike was talking about was like, oh yeah, sure, you can come in, form a head of Kanju, and then find out where he's buried. You can do, or where we're gonna put a statue, yada yada yada. Mm-hmm. But I really think the true saving grace of the show was Oscar Isaac, and it was watching him jump back and forth between his multiple personalities. I also do agree that I wish the suit was a real suit a few times, but really, yeah.
I mean, here's the thing: it is a real suit a few times, but it's not enough of the time to make any difference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when you can tell it's fake, you can tell.
Yeah, but also. Moon Knight was one of the shows that I was like the most excited about because Moon Knight was one of those characters that I thought, oh, he's probably not going to show up in the MCU till a very long time. And the fact that he's showing up this soon makes me happy because he's another lower tier Marvel character that is now getting more into the limelight. So I was excited. I don't think they nailed it completely, but I do feel like they did a good enough job that it was still a fantastic, or it was a fun show to watch. And I would definitely like to rewatch it sometime.
Mm-hmm. All right. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, hello, Sam Raimi. 5.
3.
I have it
3
at 4.
Hell yeah, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, 2 for
2, 3, 4, 5.
I have it at number 2.
Do it, Mike. Do it. I know.
I have. You know what? I have it. Oh, I have it at 7.
Good. I'll take it. Okay.
So this could switch with Shang-Chi. This is like that middle tent pole. Like, okay, cool. Like there's some things I didn't like. See, this one is like, I'm so torn. It's like not a good movie, but then everything about it's great. So like it's weird. Like I love me some Doctor Strange. I liked like seeing all the characters. I love the multiverse. I even loved that little, what was her name? America
Chavez.
I want to say America Ferrera because that's just the other, like there's 2 Americas now in the world. That was like really interesting and clever, but then just like there's some plot holes and things that fall apart, and I didn't like Scarlet Witch as the villain. Like this was like she almost seemed like the people in the van, like just like showing up. It's like, oh, I feel like it should be America Chavez and Doctor Strange are trapped, and they're leaping from place to place, kind of these mini adventures. We got to get back before this all collapses. Okay, that's the ticking clock. And then they were like, and then her thing. And so that's what kind of made it in the center, because also it's awesome and everything about it's super rad.
Yeah.
Like everything you want to see is the best.
Yeah, I think people, and this didn't end up like affecting like how they felt, but I think people expected more multiverse stuff in this movie, like going lots of places, tons of characters, and it was relatively like only a couple. Like they actually like they tamed themselves for this movie, despite it being called Multiverse of Madness. But it's the Sam Raimi factor. Like with another director, this exact same script, this movie would be awful. But it's Sam Raimi, and he's got those angles, and he's got that music with Danny Elfman, and he's got a zombie Doctor Strange who shows up at the end. That final act,
and he makes Scarlet Witch scary.
And he makes Scarlet Witch insanely scary, Evil Dead scary.
Here's the thing: there is no world. There's no world where this movie has the line, "You'll have to do more than killing me to kill me," and it doesn't make my top 5.
Yeah,
because that is an incredible line.
Yeah, that final act with Zombie Strange is so fun and so wacky, and only like again something that like Sam Raimi can really like they gave him $200 million to just make an Evil Dead Doctor Strange movie. That's so crazy. This movie opens with a giant tentacle monster, where he's slicing up like,
and it's a wonderful film to watch. It really is the Sam Raimi factor. Like this film is so high for me because it's directed by Sam Raimi and it shows.
Yeah,
I mean it's just this kind of movie. I think the script is rather weak, but there's some really great moments for dialogue moments that really shine. Like I mentioned before, but like I really like the idea that Michael Waldron was like, you know what? It wasn't fine that she enslaved an entire town. So she's the villain now. And like, yes, she has to be the villain at this point because she has the Darkhold at the end of WandaVision. And so what's that going to do to you? Because again, it wasn't okay that she enslaved an entire town.
Yeah.
And so like, her working as a villain works. She's scary. I think a lot of the multiverse stuff works. I really like seeing the cameos of Captain Carter, of Anson Mount as Black Bolt, Patrick Stewart as Xavier. Very much fan service, but I was into it. I was excited to see the arguably the best part of the worst TV show that Marvel has ever produced. In this movie, and like that's incredible, where I was just like,
with
holy
an appropriate
shit.
costume.
Dude, Black Bolt's mouth disappears and he caves in his own head and we see it. And I'm
awesome.
Like, that's a good movie.
I can't believe we saw that. Absolutely.
And so like there's so much of this movie that I really like. It's endlessly rewatchable. It's so much fun. It's so tight. It's very quick, and you're like in and out, and I'm like, yes, this is what I want from a Sam Raimi Doctor Strange movie. I think Benedict Cumberbatch is great. I think the girl who plays America Cumberbatch, America Chavez is really great. Like I just really like this movie.
I mean, obviously, when we see Black Bolt blow his own, like essentially cave his own head in, but even when Wanda pulls Mr. Fantastic apart like string cheese, that's terrifying. But yeah, look, I will agree with with this movie. Like when it was either Brandon or someone said, maybe it was Brandon or Mike, I can't remember who. When they said it's like, oh, we just got this guy to have the guy, and like, oh, hey, I know that guy, or it was probably an amalgamation of all three of you.
None of them.
No one said that. I think you stroked out.
Maybe I did. Who knows? Maybe I'm still asleep. I don't know. Maybe this is all a dream. But
then wake up.
I still really like this movie. This movie is fun.
Yeah.
This movie.
What was your ranking?
It was in my number 2. It was right behind Spider-Man Far From Home. Yeah, I had a blast. I had a blast with this movie. I don't know what else I can say about it. You guys talked. There are some great parts. There are some not so great parts. But it is a Sam Raimi Doctor Strange movie, and it's terrifying.
Here's the thing.
It's great.
This is the only entry on this list where I can point to scenes all the time. Like I can pick scene by scene by scene by scene, and like that scene is just endlessly rewatchable to me. Like I was so jazzed walking out of this theater. I was just so into it.
Fortify your minds.
Fortify your minds.
I think that's a great point though, Brandon, in a way, because it's like the scenes are super memorable. They are, and they're rewatchable and they're rewarding. And even though I'm ranking it very high in this list, I'll still say that like the overall film has a weakness to it that not all those pieces together can fix, and that holds it back.
Yeah.
I think this actually almost got lower in this because it's if I'm to play devil's advocate, because it's a Sam Raimi film, it doesn't quite, I don't know how to put this without like putting it down. It doesn't quite mesh with all the others. So it's like,
you're right. It's not as good as Oz the Great and Powerful.
Oh God, don't even, I couldn't like, but like, it's, I don't know. It like sticks out. It's almost like, I almost wish it wasn't an MCU movie and he was making Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and it like had nothing to do with an MCU. Like there is no MCU and it's like, oh my God, what's he come up with? Like this is going to be crazy. But like, because they had to like still, I don't want to say shoehorn it, but since it did have to fit into a slot, you know, that pulls it back a little bit.
It's also his favorite hero, and that shows. Like he allows Doctor Strange to do a lot of really cool things, and the way that he visualizes.
He never uses the same spell twice. He never uses the same spell twice. Very creative, very interesting. I really like Doctor Strange too. Like he's one of my low key favorite, like Marvel superheroes, and this was, it was just so much fun. So much fun.
Marks?
This Mike brought up something that I think is a great point. I want to interject because I know kind of where you all are on this, but for Mike, do you want more MCU films that feel like they don't necessarily belong in the MCU in like tone and style, or do you want them to feel like they're all kind of in that same milieu? Because I know that that's one of the things I responded to in Eternals. It's definitely one of the things I respond to in Multiverse of Madness is that I like them feeling different. I even want them to not necessarily feel like they are beholden to the exact same like
formula,
stylistic rules.
I'm going to, I guess I'll devil's advocate and say, I would like them to fit in the same universe. I think I'm glad that maybe they were able to rein Sam Raimi in a little bit. And I know like a lot of directors quit because of like artistic differences and they can't do their thing. And I think since this is so big and there's so many moving pieces, it's necessary. I mean, to use an analogy, it's like when they build the space shuttle, it's not one company. It's tons of different companies that making all these separate parts to make the space shuttle. And one can't be like, well, we wanted to kind of make it cool and be a little bigger. It's like, it's not going to fit. You can't, it won't work. Like you can't, like all this is designed to work together for all this to work. So in a way, I'm kind of glad that there's someone, it's what people complain the most about the MCU, but that's probably secretly its greatest strength is that there's someone being like making sure this fits into here, making like, I think in one of the shows, there's a wide shot of New York and the Statue of Liberty's bronze. And I was like, bronze? And I was like, oh, because they're redoing it because of Captain America, but it's had nothing to do with that. But someone's like, listen, this all has to fit together. This is all taking place. Like, this is important. I think that's a good thing. I think if directors just all did these one shots and they got too avant-garde while entertaining, it would not be beneficial in the grand scheme of things.
Interesting.
It is what made the MCU so popular in the first place. It's like when the movies were a little more homogenous.
Well, then I don't agree with that because like the first phase, if you actually watch those movies, Kenneth Branagh and Joe Johnston did not make the same stylistic movie with Thor and Captain America. They're very different stylistically. Same with Iron Man. Like those three films built the MCU. You're kind of right in the sense that like Captain America and Thor were not very popular when they came out. Arguably, they became more popular when the Avengers came out. And it was really phase 2 where we started to see this kind of like stylistic thing. So I guess perhaps you are correct in the sense that like phase 2 is really where the MCU got very popular. And that's kind of where that style guide showed up. Yeah. Maybe I backed myself out of my point.
Because like, okay, so I mean, could you imagine if Ash from Evil Dead, not Ash from Evil Dead 2, maybe because that might just work, but like Evil Dead 1 and Scott Pilgrim and the brothers from the Darjeeling Limited all had to team up in a movie. You'd be like, what the hell are you talking about?
Oh,
like,
but Mike, I've watched the shit out of that.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe I backed myself out of my point too.
Wes Anderson, the jeering. That's such an interesting choice of characters to pick because that's a great movie.
I like
I love
Mike.
that movie,
You and I both just backed ourselves out of our points.
Yes, by like making the other person's point.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
All right.
Multiverse of Madness. We all like it.
Miss Marvel.
Where are you? Okay.
Oh,
Brings me no pleasure to say it's a 12.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I got it at 6.
6? Ben? You went, oh no. It can't be
15.
17. 15.
No, it's 15. It's down there.
Mine's at 10.
I'm at 4.
Hell yeah,
Whoa.
Mike.
Oh,
That's awesome.
This could
awesome.
have been number 1, but it had some problems.
Yeah.
This easily
Yeah.
could have been number 1. Like
So,
very easily.
Mike,
I was
you
so surprised.
Mike, you mentioned this phase has like a kind of bureaucratic aspect to it. This is the one where I thought that this should have just been Damage Control as the villain. I don't think it should have had like the Dark Miss Marvel at the end there, which with Kamran.
Kamran, yeah.
Yeah, the last episode was like, I was telling Bridget, I was just like, oh, it should have stopped the episode in front of it. Like after when they're in Pakistan. Yeah, Pakistan. No. Yeah.
They should have stopped after the high school part because that part was awesome. Where like they're in the school trying to evade stuff.
And I
Once
think-
I hated that.
The only thing, the only 2 episodes the only thing about this show, the reason why it's still low for me is that there are 2 spectacularly bad episodes, and it's 4 and 5. I don't think 4 and 5 work for me specifically. I think 1, 2, 3, and 6 work very well together. And are just one cohesive episode, and you take out 4 and 5, this is honestly a better show. But also, you got to take out the clandestine because they don't work as villains. They are arguably the worst villains we've seen in the MCU.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that's why it's low for me.
I'll say this, and I'll stay quiet about Miss Marvel because I don't have a whole lot to say about it. The show started off so strong for me.
Oh yeah.
It started off so strong, and then episodes 4 and 5 happened, and then the rest of the show happens, and I'm just sitting there going, did they lose their way? So I feel like they lost their way so hard, and they had a decent story going off. As like, you have this girl living in Jersey City, wanting to live up to the expectations of this hero, trying to appease of overprotective mom, an overbearing mother, and then it just face plants and tumbles over itself. So the reason why it's so low for me is because that last half of the season just completely lost me. They just kept doing one thing after another. I'm just like, can you guys slow down and pick one?
Pick a lane.
Just one.
Yeah.
I remember we
Pick a
really
lane.
liked the finale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really
I'm trying to remember
high for me. Oh.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how I felt about the finale. I just can't. But unfortunately, Miss Marvel, it's down there for me personally. It might go back up, but as of right now, it's still down there.
You're not rewatching it.
It's on the low of my green, and it really could have been number 1, but like the last episode and the same things kind of you were saying. But I want to say all the things I really liked. Like the first episode, the stakes were so low, and it was like nothing I had seen.
The
I was
style.
just like everything, the family, the brother, the dynamics, the friends. I really liked it was the real high school. So I have this pet peeve about high school where like the bullies are just like, they like the main character's like, hey, so after school we're gonna do nerdy things, right? And the friends are like, yeah. And then suddenly like the locker slams and it's like 26-year-old who's playing a 14-year-old is like, what? No, you're not. And they like pick him up and throw him into the sun. And I'm like, oh, that's like, but I like this version where she's just not noticed and things don't really go her way every day and they kind of add up. And like the teacher says her name wrong and that's not a big deal, but that sucks. And like people are in front of her and she's like, oh, and then the one girl that like, she's just, the one girl that's supposed like the popular girl or whatever, she's fine, but it just rubs the wrong way, and they're not friends, and it makes her feel bad. Like, that's very real. I love those stakes. This is my tiny stakes. Me loving it. Like her being, like her wanting to show her costume off at Avenger Con. I was just like this. I was so tense. I was like more tense than any show. I was like, is she gonna go? What's it look like? Are they gonna all laugh at her? Is it good? Is she gonna get on stage? I don't know. How's it gonna go? I don't know. I hope she does. I hope she's brave enough to go on stage. Like, she worked so hard on this. Like, I was in, like, and that's when I realized, like, wow, this is really good. This is like, I'm more invested in her costume contest than whether or not Peter saves Electro. Like, I don't care. Like, like, he saved Electro. Great.
He's number 6. Okay. Number 6 on my list. And yeah, I agree. Like, those 2 episodes are bad, but the everything else about the show is it's some of my favorite stuff in the MCU, and it's just a family being a family.
Yeah.
And again, that's always what it comes down to, is just character. And I love Kamala and her family, and her brother and his wife and all that stuff. And there's a great wedding. That first episode has so much style. It's insane. The special effects, like the way they text, the things on the walls.
The first 3 minutes, all that stuff, I was like, oh, I love this.
It's incredible. And I wish it stayed like that the entire show, but that's because there's different directors for different episodes. That's fine. A lot of these,
talk really?
About bad. Yeah. Like, that's why it feels so strong, and then it's not the same. Yeah, that's how a lot of these shows end up happening. It happens. But like Miss Marvel herself is such a standout character. Amon Vellani is so insanely charming that, like, the villains suck. Like, they might as well not even be there. Like, how good she is. Like, she transcends how bad they are. And all of her friends, I love Bruno. I forget the other friend's name. The one who didn't like her, and then they become friends or whatever. Zoe, the popular girl, who also becomes her friend. Like, I did like the Home Alone final action scene in the last episode. I know we did, because we talked about it. Like the damage control stuff, like that should have been the main threat. The clandestine stuff, like, they bit off more than they can chew. But
that's the kind of thing that we're talking about this whole time. Like, what Mike's talking about, like the stakes thing. The clandestines are when the stakes get way too high for the show. The show should have stayed lower. And like this whole clandestine thing of, like, the world will end if they try to break through the veil or whatever. That's the stakes that we're being told. And it's like, that's too high for this show.
It was. That's why it's not my number one. These are things like why it wasn't my number one, because it was my number one for while I was watching. I was like, this is great, because I really enjoyed it, because if you took out the Marvel stuff, that she was going to be a superhero. Number one, love that the powers were just the most random shit. So it's like nothing I've ever seen. Like, platforms, big hands, cool. All right, let's see how she does this. But that being said, if you took that out, it was like this perfect, like, young adult TV series. Like, this girl, things aren't going her way, and then she finds this bracelet, and it starts unraveling this mystery of her family, and she has to ask her mom, oh, it's about your great grandma. She goes to Pakistan. She's fish out of water. Like, then she travels back in time. Like, when she, I think you guys don't like these episodes, but when she was back in time on the train platform, I was like, holy shit. When, like, they pan out and it's just the last days of in India, and there's just thousands of people climbing on these trains, and it's the last one out because there's this huge genocide, and then the credits roll. I was like, whoa.
That's a good shot.
You're right. You're right. They should have gotten rid of the clandestine and the damage control. I wish it was just this wonderful heritage story about her. And then, but they had to make it an MCU thing. So it's interesting. It's really interesting. It's weird. I loved it.
So I'll jump in here. So the reason it's at 12 for me, again, it's just me liking other things more overall than the things I don't like in this one. Which, because Miss Marvel was really, really high for me, and for a time I was like, I think like it was the highest of the shows. And what sours me, it is the clandestine stuff. It is a little bit also the going to Pakistan stuff. And the only reason that that's true is because I feel like, and they were probably correct, they threw everything in the kitchen sink they possibly could for her representationally being in this show at it, for only 6 episodes because they did not have faith that they would definitely get another opportunity to do so. Whereas I think like a trip out of the country maybe should have been another story, or the clandestines themselves should have been the other story. Like you said, like, don't do the damage control stuff, only focus on this heritage story without the clandestines. And then I think, yeah, you probably could make Pakistan work, but it's so squished for time, especially because of the Red Dagger episode introduction. And the Red Daggers are like 2 dudes who mean nothing to me. Like it's just not given enough time to breathe in a show that totally was different for 3 episodes up to that point. And that's really where it doesn't jive with me, is because I feel like they just felt the pressure to cram a lot in that doesn't have room to breathe. It's not even, the clandestines are underdeveloped, and I think they're too big stakes for this first season anyway and shouldn't have been there. But then the other parts are just not given enough room to breathe. I love it. I love going there and the back in time thing to a very real event that happened and putting this reflection on it, I think is really good. The story around it is just not allowed to catch its breath. The fact that she doesn't have enough time with her own grandmother around that circumstance is part of the thing that I'm like, I wish we had more time with her to actually like connect on that heritage story you're talking about. That's why it falls lower. It's just because it should have been a longer show, or it should have just moved certain things into a second season and had faith it could tell that part later and focused on the things it needed to focus on for this one.
Yeah, I agree with that.
What did you have it as, Sparks?
12.
Yeah, it's like we flipped. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, I really agree with everything that you guys are saying, honestly. Like, just for me, like, I was really hot on those first 3 episodes. I even really like episode 6. Like those first 3 episodes have so much style, have so much personality to them. It felt so unique to anything from the MCU we've seen at that point. And like Iman Vellani is a treasure. She is a delight that I cannot wait to watch in 100 more Marvel movies as this character and beyond. And so like when I'm thinking back on it, like I just remember how let down I was by the trip to Pakistan, because it slowed that momentum down, because we had to deal with this stuff, because we had to deal with the clandestine, and that stuff just slowed it all down for me. And again, like the clandestine, it's like the clandestine are pulling the show down for me, because they are so legendarily terrible in my opinion, that the show just keeps getting pulled down for me. And then the whole like putting a hat on a hat on a hat when it comes to her origin, like she's half genie, she's got the bracelet, she's also a mutant. Like mutant. What are we doing here? Pick one thing and stick with it, because we don't need the 3. But ultimately, like I still have a lot of joy with the show. I would watch those first 3 episodes in a heartbeat. Like I think those specifically are just delightful.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Thor: Love and Thunder.
Ben, where do you have it?
Number 7.
7.
13.
Right. 13.
Yeah.
13.
5.
Oh, I should go.
What your last?
16.
Oh, yeah,
16. 2. This is my number 2.
Yes. Oh,
Mike.
Yes.
Yeah, man, I love this movie. I was like, this is awesome. This is so much fun.
Hell yeah.
Like just tonally, it was smart to have it be like a bedtime story to someone, so you could have that heightened sense of everything. So you could like unreliably narrator crank up the fantasy of it. I love me some Mighty Thor. It has one of these lines that I quote now to this day, spoken like a Thor who doesn't have cancer. I think that's such a good line. Like he's like telling someone, like a cancer patient, what to do with their last days. And she's like, who are you talking to? Love it. I laughed a bunch. I thought it was great. Again, it might be the having a kid thing, Thor getting a kid. Like, I was like, this is that storyline. What do you like? Thor is like, I'm arrogant. I've got the shit kicked out of me. I lost my father. Now I have kids. Now I'm the father. Like, there you go. Like, here it is. You know, this is like, what do my top 4 have? Hawkeye, Thor, Spider-Man, Miss Marvel. All family. They're all family stories.
Right.
That's so clearly you see what really got me on this phase. Like, just my most favorite things about Miss Marvel was like, I hope she talks to her grandma more. Like that, like my brain is just like, oh, show me some more paintings, grandma. This is really interesting. And so the same thing with Thor, like having a daughter and like the God Killers, like what a poetic end, and then having all the kids fighting and I just had so much fun with it. And I love Thor, and I do love Thor in the MCU. I think Chris Hemsworth is like just having so much fun. And yeah, like number 2, man, it's above Spider-Man just because rock and roll. Let's have some fun. Let's get crazy. Let's get stupid. You know, and I love that.
Sparks actually been real quickly because Sparks also had it high. I want to know what he has to say first.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too different from when we did the review where I really enjoyed everything the movie was doing, and my only real complaint was I just wish I had more. I just wish I had a little bit more gore. I wish I had a little bit more Jane. I wish I had a little bit more Thor and Jane together. I wish I had a little bit more Valkyrie. That was my only. I was like, I love everything it's doing. I just want a little bit more. It worked for me. It worked for me on every level. I find it colorful. I find it a great time. Gore. Christian Bale gives one of the best villain performances in the MCU. I won't say one of the best villains, but one of the best performances for a villain for sure. And I love the Jane story. I also I did the whole Thor arc rewatch, including his Avengers appearances before Love and Thunder came out, and it felt like a correct next step, next chapter to me. It really, really worked for me, and I really, really like it. Much to Mike's point, like the arc of him, what he goes through up to this point and losing everything and then finding a child, really, really, I like it a lot. It just could have used more, I think, to develop it a little further, but I still enjoy it so much.
And because you wanted to go.
Yeah, I also really enjoy this film. I mean, it's a little bit lower. It's still in my top 10 of the phase, but I also had fun. I mean, I can understand I went into Thor: Love and Thunder not expecting the exact same as Ragnarok. I wasn't expecting that same energy, but I still had fun. I loved all the 80s metal references. I loved all the I really loved Christian Bale as the God Killer or the God Butcher. I thought I agree with Sparks. That's one of the best villain performances in a very long time. He was scary, terrifying. I love Jane. I love a lot of things about this movie, but at the same time, there are some problems with it. I will not deny that there are some issues there, but other than that, it's still a fun watch. It's a fun time, and I really enjoy it.
Ryan, do you want to go next?
I guess I'm looking at this list, and I think this might be the only one that I got wrong. I think this should be higher.
What'd you put it at?
Because I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I actually like this movie. I don't dislike it. I don't know why it's so low. I think this might be the only one that I might have messed up on.
What'd you put it as?
13.
It's at 13. It might be like 10.
Yeah.
I still like. It is. I like it. I don't think it does like almost anything. I love Thor Ragnarok a lot, and when I just put these next to each other, I'm like, I would just rather watch that movie every single time almost. This movie is really funny and it's got a great villain and I like Jane, but I feel a lot because of its mandatory needs to be less than 2 hours. Like a lot of it doesn't get everything. What am I trying to say? I'm losing it. It doesn't have enough to chew on. It introduces a lot of things and there's not a lot to chew on.
You guys keep going. I gotta go move my car real quick.
Move it.
Okay.
I'll just remember thinking the Thunderbolt was dumb. Like that thing's just a MacGuffin.
The what?
The Thunderbolt.
Yeah, I remember that. I just remember the kids.
Exactly.
Zeus's Thunderbolt.
Exactly. It's so into
I love him. I love him bestowing the power of Thor to all the kids. Like if you're
That's
worthy,
awesome. Yeah.
And they're like,
I love that.
And just becoming a role model. These are all about these old heroes becoming role models, and that's where I am in life, And it just really resonates with me. It just looked cool. Like it was. I mean, talk about the Eternals being like Jack Kirby. Here we go. I mean, Thor: Love and Thunder was just crazy. They're like, screw it, let's do it. And it was the third highest. Like it didn't beat Ragnarok, but it was the third highest Thor movie.
They designed this new lighting technology specifically for the black and white planet scene.
Yes.
So that it's like color lighting them in a specific way. So it's like dynamic and moving around the actors. It was this whole thing that they had to create to give it the effect that it does. And I think it looks really cool.
Oh, yes, I agree. I do think that Gore's like black minion monsters, they're generic as hell, and like they're just like black goo monsters. And like a bunch of fighting scenes were against them. Like, it's just like slashy.
Did you? I saw a. You're right. But I saw a behind the scenes that he had a bunch of kids write down what their nightmare monsters looked like, and then just use that. So he literally took their crayon drawings.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, he was just like, use these, and so that's why. So like when all the townspeople are fighting the nightmare monsters, they're just kids. They're actually kids' drawings.
That makes
because the whole thing is the whole movie is a bedtime story.
Right.
About, Thor, and it's told as such, and I love it.
Yeah.
All right. She-Hulk Attorney at Law.
No, come on, Brandon.
Wait, that's not how this works.
I don't want to be a wet blanket.
Oh, did you hate Thor?
You put it at 16. Nobody's gonna judge you for this. You can not.
Oh, I am. No, your friends. Well, but I'm not. No, I'm judging you harshly. How dare you? What happened to you? You used to be cool.
Shit.
I really soured on this movie, like hardcore, because I realized watching it that I wanted to like it. I was desperate to like this movie, watching it in the theaters. I said to myself, creative team from Ragnarok, give it to me. I want that. Ragnarok is such a good movie, in my opinion. So Love and Thunder, I couldn't deal with the fact that I was disappointed. So I was putting myself in a place where I was like, no, just keep talking about the things you like. Just keep the goats are really funny. I think the goats are really funny. Quite honestly, I still feel like the goats are really funny. I like the black and white planet. That's really cool visually. Outside of the goats, though, the humor that is so prevalent in the movie is far too juvenile for me. There was a interview that came out that said this feels like a 4-year-old wrote it. Yeah, and frankly, not in a good way. I think the humor is lowbrow and really just whatever Taika was interested in doing. Frankly, I don't think he was interested in doing this. This is him not playing up to his even comedic strength, which I find him to be a very good comic. He's delivered some really funny moments and some really emotional moments. I think Jojo Rabbit is a masterpiece. I think that movie is incredible. But watching this movie, I can't rewatch it. I have tried to rewatch this movie 4 times in the past 2 months, and I just can't sit through it. I just can't. To me, it is just not enjoyable. There's some good things, sure, but I can't get to them. I can't sit there long enough to get to them.
Yeah, you're not. I think it's just like stage in your life, and you're not there yet. Are you ready to have kids, Brandon?
No.
I'm shocked. I can't believe it.
See, but that's why I didn't want to say anything.
Listen, the Thor: Love and Thunder, like, I don't love it. It feels like I'm reading like Journey into Mystery number 79. It's just like a fun story. Like it's doing some good stuff. It's not doing anything better than any of the other movies have done, but it's a great fun story with I love the final act as well, like the kids stuff. That stuff is super fun. It's nice, light and fluffy. It's not as tight as Ragnarok is. It's definitely like it feels more loosey.
But it feels like where Ragnarok felt like a really tightly scripted movie, this felt like, okay, the B material made it in, and that was all that made it in. And so like I just don't. There's just. I'm sorry. I'm too harsh. I'm sorry.
I should apologize.
You can feel that. I just don't agree with it.
Comedies are hard.
Comedies are
hard. They're hard to make, man. You're not wrong. And especially when you're right. The humor is juvenile. So this thing happened to me where I'm not cynical anymore, and I'm not saying like cynical in a bad way. If we're just going to pertain to comedy, because now that you bring that up, I'm like leaning into sincerity, and that's like changing my worldview. I think a lot happened post-pandemic where pre-pandemic, there's a lot of cynicism and irony and humor, and that was great. And I realized something finally clicked over. I watched the first episode of Wednesday.
Yeah.
You guys watch Wednesday?
Yeah.
I could only watch the first episode because they cut to her and she's like, how are you, Wednesday? And she's like, I want to burn your house down. And you're like, okay. Like it's like it's cranking that irony up. And I'm I'm past that. I'm back to sincerity. I'm back to Thor, Stormbreaker coming into view and him being like, oh, hey, Stormbreaker. I wasn't talking to Mjolnir,
That's a great
I'm back to sincerity. And so you're everything Brandon's saying is right. It's just like, you want a little salt? You want a little sweet right now? What's your flavor? What's your palate asking for? You know what I mean?
Sparks, you were going to say something before.
I was going to say that I don't think it would be a stretch to argue that Love and Thunder is the most purposefully comedic of the MCU films to date. And comedy is very much especially when it's just out and out comedy, like it either works for you or it doesn't. And there's plenty of straight up just comedy films and they work for you or they don't. And that's usually how it goes. And the fact that Love and Thunder can land in that space, I don't think is a wrong thing. I don't think anybody's wrong for not enjoying it. It just does for me and it doesn't for Brandon. Also, and I think that's totally fine.
Brandon, you're not alone. Like a lot of people don't like this movie.
Yeah.
So you're not alone.
But the thing is, like Mike mentioned the Mjolnir Stormbreaker thing, that I found that funny. Sparks, but also Sparks, you talked about how you wanted more to be there. To me, that more is the A material that was taken out of this movie. And so I'm just kind of sitting there well, okay, well, if there was more with Jane and Thor, if there was more with Gore, if there was more that you're talking about, then I would like it more.
Sure. And I think that's valid. I don't think there's anything invalid about that.
Okay.
All right.
That was fun.
How dare you?
I had a great time.
I have no more. I don't think I have any more controversial picks from here on out.
I don't even think it's controversial. I've enjoyed how it's great because we're all different, and I really do love that.
This would be so boring if all of our lists are exactly the same.
Well, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law.
She-Hulk.
Real quickly, is Ben hot for anyone else? Because Ben is coming in really hot for me.
I don't know. He hasn't talked enough yet.
Say something, Ben.
Hi. I'm back. It's just, can you hear me okay? What's going on? I'm a little scared.
He's coming in a little hot, right? Because I can hear him sighing and breathing and moving his chair. I'm picking up the whole room.
It's just your opinions. You're like, I thought Thor was bad, and you can hear Ben go, "Oh God."
No.
That was the worst.
Anyway, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it'll be fine in the edit.
I could turn my mic volume down a little bit if it's too much for you, Brandon.
You're balancing out fine.
Okay, that's good.
Right.
So She-Hulk.
That's good.
I have it at number 7.
7. All right.
God, I love you. Thank you.
So what do you have it on?
3.
Oh, nice.
He doesn't like it.
Me?
Ben.
Oh no, I have it at number 8.
8. I have it at number 7.
I have it at number 6.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
I think 3 is totally fine. I thought She-Hulk was surprising and refreshing and fun and low stakes. And it was kind of I don't want to say not like the anti-Hawkeye, but I enjoyed, it was goofy. So, because you could have the B Squad heroes and really get nerdy. And I thought the actress was amazing. I thought She-Hulk looked great. I thought the story arc was fantastic and ironic that she didn't want to do the whole pamphlet that Hulk wanted to give her. And through the series, she ends up doing the whole pamphlet that Hulk wanted to give her. Very, a little clever little, And that could totally be a 3. The only reason it's a 6 for me is because a couple things got up there and ahead of it, you know. Also, but I got PTSD from LA. I got a little LA PTSD. I was sitting with, because I'm in Seattle now, and I was sitting with Bridget watching this, and I was like, I've been to that party. I don't like this. Like, I know that person. I don't like this. You know what I mean? Like, I know where they are, and I don't like it. This is stressing me out.
It's a little too real.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll jump in. I want to say that for me, it can really simply be summed up as, I think arguably more than any of the other MCU Disney Plus shows, besides maybe Loki, but I really have to watch it again to see if I really feel that way. I think it is the most consistent in knowing what it's doing and what its vision is from the beginning to the end. And it's telling a story, and more importantly, it's telling a story that's like very specifically, this is for you or it isn't. This is not designed to be for every MCU fan. This is not designed to embrace everybody. It is telling a specific story with a specific angle about how women are portrayed in superhero media and in media in general. And you're either going to be on board or you aren't, and it doesn't care if you're not. It's not trying to pull you in. And I really, really liked it. I love Maslany. I love the show from top to bottom. My only complaint about it is that Titania's involvement is confusing. Because I don't feel like they ever develop her properly to be a nemesis to her, and her involvement from episode 1 to her next appearance is weird. And if that had been cleaner and more fleshed out, especially because I love that actor, then it would soar up even more, because it's so good. I know this from not counting the specials, but of the shows, this is the top. It's just above Loki for me.
Ryan, you have it at the highest of us all.
If Loki wasn't perfect, this probably would have been my favorite my favorite TV show. No, I upon reflection, like, I was enjoying the show the whole time, but upon reflection, I'm like, man, I just love that this could just be, again, like Mike, you talk about stakes. Like, this is just about a superhero lawyer, and like the superhero part really isn't that important. She turns green sometimes. Just really fun. I think every episode is really funny. Every episode introduces like some obscure, fun Marvel character they can just throw away, like Mr. Immortal showing up and just throws himself out a window to avoid all conflict. Super fun. All the side characters, her secretary best friend, and then like the guy, I forget his the shoe guy,
Pug,
and then like the elf lady turns into him, and he's like, I'm a big chauvinist, I hate women, and I'm like, that shit is so funny.
You guys know me.
Every character rules.
Yeah,
love it.
Like Loki. I do think Loki does this, and against all the other ones, it knows it's a show, and it knows how to be a show, which a lot of them have failed at. They've tried to be 6-hour
big movie,
whatever movies,
big movie,
and this one is like, we are a television show, and we know we're a television show, and we're being a television show that is set in the MCU, but not beholden to all aspects of the MCU. We can kind of tell our own pocket story,
and like, She-Hulk on its own is great, fantastic, but also, again, like, getting Daredevil back and him being portrayed in such a fun and sexy way, and they hook up, and it's just like adult superheroes being superheroes, and like it just felt like mature in like a way that's like, yeah, these are just two people that hang out, they bang, who cares? Like, it was just fun, just a good low stakes time. Goons, bad guys, henchmen, they're all the same in my eyes.
I have this thing where I'm kind of tired of the staleness of modern day blockbusters. You guys have heard me talk about how sexy blockbusters used to be. I'd always talk about how like the chemistry between the female and male lead used to be so electrifying. You could cut it with a knife, and all you wanted to do is watch them kiss. By the end of that movie, you want that kiss, and when they're not on screen, they're boning. Like, that's the kind of like electrifying chemistry I miss in blockbusters, and primarily because Disney was so prevalent in the blockbuster space, they kind of sanitized that, and everyone kind of followed suit for a while. But we're kind of shifting away from that, and She-Hulk was a big part of that for me, because when Tatiana Maslany and Charlie Cox were on screen together, their dynamic was so sexy. They want each other so bad, and like, you feel it, and they're so cute about it, and it's wonderful, and you just want to see that kiss. And Charlie Cox is wonderful returning to Daredevil, slipping into shoes. He just walks off of the set of Spider-Man No Way Home, and he was like, I'm still this character. I'm the perfect casting for this character. Maslany is wonderful. She's incredible as She-Hulk, and I love her dearly. This is the first thing I've seen Maslany in personally, because I had not seen Orphan Black, but she did a voice work in 3 Below, which I think she's great in. And she is wonderful in this show. And Sparks is absolutely correct. Like it is a show that feels like a TV show. It works like a TV show. It cannot work as anything other than a TV show. Breaking the fourth wall is honestly incredibly hilarious every single time they do it in the show. All the cameos were really fun. Love Benedict Cumberbatch, not Benedict Cumberbatch, Benedict Wong. And I love, I'm trying to give everyone the Cumberbatch last name tonight. I don't know if you know.
Keep going. It might take off. Cumberbatch,
yeah, I think so.
Keep going.
Oh god, so. that one girl who calls Madison.
Yeah. Wonderful show. I like the show.
A little too LA.
I like this show. I like the show immensely. But my favorite joke is so small. But I think about it all the time. Where it's just like, and I saw this go. Like I think his name was Jake, and the guy just goes, "Oh, I know Jake. You know Jake? Yeah." This is so funny for some reason.
Because it's comedy and it's difficult to do, and when it hits, it hits.
Yeah, this one hits. This one hits for me.
Yes, what I mean. This is what I mean. Yeah,
it's so good.
Ben,
go ahead, Ben.
Talking about She-Hulk and looking at my list and what TV show I have highest, I have WandaVision highest, just only because of how different it was when it first came out. The She-Hulk can easily topple WandaVision on my list as like the best MCU show as right now, because just talking about with you or just listening to you guys gush about it, I'm sitting there going, I messed up. She-Hulk is a lot better than WandaVision as a whole.
Because we got a better ending.
Oh yeah,
it's got a better ending.
Yeah, it's one of those shows where it is meant to be a show, and also it's short. It's very bite-sized, and it's fun. I was not upset every time I would watch She-Hulk. I was like, this is a good time. Obviously, my favorite episode is going to be the Daredevil episode because reasons. And I just you're right. The jokes all hit. I love Madden. Like when I first was introduced to Madison, I thought I'm going to hate her guts. The episode goes on. I'm like, protect this woman with every fiber of my being. She is too pure for this world.
Real quick, I just want to respond to something you said, Ben, which is like you were talking about how it's short, and it's going to be prevalent for where we're heading in this discussion, because the back 3 that we're discussing of the Disney Plus releases feel like bite-sized elements. They feel like they are supplemental to the MCU, and I feel like they are a key to what is successful about doing Disney Plus alongside the movies. I'm not saying you can't have the long drama series, but a lot of them have fumbled the bag because I think they've been trying too hard to replicate the film formula. And these are the ones where it's like, we know how to use this medium to add to the MCU without demanding your sole attention from the MCU.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a funny, the one complaint I have is when she's dating. Only because I turned to Bridget when she's dating as She-Hulk, and then the next morning, so she's with a guy that loves She-Hulk, and the next morning she's just herself again, and he's like not into that. And I just turned to Bridget and I was like, heads up, if you like also could turn into some shorter, cute chick as well that was into me, I'd be fine with that. Like,
yeah,
but I wouldn't be like, oh, you can turn into another chick who likes me. Oh no, thank you.
But I think that was where the show was really good, because the show knew what was the thesis statement of the show. Jen not feeling confident in being able to be both,
to be herself,
and
it was very important to the show. That was a little bit of humor I thought was funny when he was like, oh, you're a cute, successful lawyer. I don't like you. Bye.
Not my type.
And,
not my type.
Talk about like the kind of like the smaller stakes and the more personal stories. Like one of my favorite scenes is in the group therapy section with Emil Blonsky and all the other weird Marvel heroes. Like they're all just sitting there, just talking about Jen's problems and their own problems, and it's a really intimate scene, and it's really well acted, and it's really interesting to watch.
Yeah,
and
that's what should have been the Falcon. Sorry.
No, that's true. You're 100% right. And you expect like they subvert your expectations because you expect like, oh, this is where things go bad for Jen. Someone's gonna betray her, or the final episode, oh, she's gonna have to fight a big Hulk, and they subvert that both times. And she has a great therapy session, and she has a great talk with Robot Kevin Feige. So
I gotta say,
Love it.
I gotta say, Robot Kevin Feige is so funny to me, and only because they keep the hat on. Because like, that's just peak comedy in my mind. It's just so good. All right.
What's next?
All right. What is next is Werewolf by Night.
Number 2.
4.
Really?
You gotta say it, Ben.
3.
This isn't just. Hey, thank you.
Number 3. I said it.
1.
Nice.
That was your number 1? This was just what do I have it as? Number 9. It just kind of fell into the middle for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it was you know what it was? It was okay, so I mean, I was like, if you want to talk about it, but that's why we're here. Like sometimes I have to ask Bridget, like, do you care? Like, should I stop? Like, like when I'm halfway through my dissertation about yeah. So it had so it was about an hour long, and it had a great first half, and I thought the second half really fell apart, and it did this thing that I don't like. Not that I don't like, but I've been noticing it more in cinema, and it's playing into audience biases. And to support this, have you guys seen the Rian Johnson movies, Knives Out and Glass Onion?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in those movies, it's a great mystery and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy them. And what it does is he takes your audience bias and it takes one character and you're like, oh, they're great. They're the hero. You're going to root for them. And everyone else is a piece of garbage. But in the actuality of the movie, they're all garbage. Even the hero is a piece of shit. And they're playing with the audience bias that we like them. So like for Knives Out, our hero, she's lying the whole time. She knows exactly how this person's parents died. And she like is keeping it from them for monetary gain. Like you're just as horrible as everyone, but we like her. She's the hero. We're supposed to like her. Same thing with the second movie. Like you're also pretending you're lying to them so you can get something. Like they're all lying about who they are. The whole point of the movie is everyone's lying who they are. So is our hero. But we like her because the movie tells us to, which is okay, right? Fine. But I'm just noticing audience playing into inherent audience biases.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Sure.
In this one, like he kills everybody. Like, why? No one does anything wrong. And you're like, by the end, you're like, oh, I hope that lead stepmother dies. And I'm like, why? Like in my brain, I'm thinking that like, oh man, I hope she gets torn apart. And then I'm like, why? Wait, hold on, what's going on? Like, what did she do? Nothing? Like, she's just rude? Like, she's like mean to people, kind of. So like she deserves to get her face melted off. And so
sometimes that's enough.
I really like the beginning. I thought it was really clever and interesting. And once they capture him and he's like, oh, I'm going to turn into a werewolf. I was like, oh, don't do this. Like, and then he saves the girl. Like, okay. And then, oh, see, not all monsters are bad. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So that kind of dropped it down. If it was just that first half, like a classic, like what they're doing with the monster movie, I really liked it. But when they're trying to subvert the expectations and made it like, a little, made it an hour and long, it kind of fell into that middle area for me.
Sure.
And then the last thing is, do you notice they actually had the burn marks in the film, quote unquote?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know the cigarette burns? Yeah, they actually had them every 11 minutes. I was like, wow, I noticed them. And then I was like, are they going to have it every 11 minutes? And they do. They actually put them in there in the right timing and everything. I was like, oh, that's really impressive detail. Okay, cool. So yeah, that's why it's middle of the road. But you guys all had it so high.
I won't disagree that like it doesn't subvert your expectations or anything, but it's a show called Werewolf by Night, and we haven't met a werewolf yet. So like our main character, he is the werewolf. Like even if you don't know that, you gotta realize some point like, oh, there's a werewolf in the show, right? So like I feel like
I thought the monster was going to be the werewolf that he was hunting. Like I thought swamp monster was the werewolf, and then when he shows up that he's not, I'm like, oh, he's the werewolf. Okay, but yeah, sorry, continue. You're right.
No, yeah, just like I don't think I think for this show specifically, like it's introducing like a universal monster type of character. So like I think to do what they did and just like pay homage to old school horror movies, and like it is doing the old school of like, you know, black and white and like doing like the shadows of him turning to a monster. Like it's just paying homage to like old school horror movies while also introducing this to the MCU. So like I don't think it needed to like, you know, do anything super special, or like it's just being a schlocky horror movie, a schlocky horror hour, you know? Like I don't think it's trying to reach.
I wouldn't even say schlocky. I would say like, because it's very classic inspired. It's before schlock. It's before it's going back to
it's campy.
Sure,
It's definitely like old school Frankenstein's the Bride of Frankenstein campy.
Yeah. It's style for me. It's you know, it's capturing a era of film I adore, and reinstilling it in this way that I find refreshing and wonderful, and I really enjoy it. I just love living in the space. The fact that it's so bite-sizable and easy to enjoy makes it all the more pleasant, I think. I love the practicality of the werewolf look. I think it looks so good. I won't deny that like there's not a crap ton of substance beyond the surface level of what you're given and then the style of it, but I love it. I love seeing it. And that makes it very high for me. It's personal bias in a lot of ways, but I love it.
Oh yeah,
it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. I disagree with everything Mike was saying. I'm sorry.
How dare you?
Listen,
this was middle of the road. This was not bad. I'm telling you why it's in the middle. This wasn't in the red. This was right in the mix. But continue.
It's just when they told us they were going to do these special presentations and it was going to be a horror movie, fine. What does a horror movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe look like? Look like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I guess. Because they told us that was going to be a horror movie when they first announced that too. So I was like, okay, fine. But the fact that they allowed an up-and-coming director who I really like as a composer, and as a director, because I was enamored. I'm sorry, I say this all the time. I love his Star Trek short film. It is incredible, and the fact that they got him to do this 45-minute Marvel special presentation and then score it.
Who's the name?
Michael Giacchino.
There you go.
When the movie opens and it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe logo and then the slashes happen, immediately I was sucked in. I was enamored. The fact that we were going to get this film feels different. It feels wholly unique to anything else in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's got characters that I don't give a shit if they ever interact with anyone else in the Avengers. I love it. It's small. It's got smaller stakes. It's just a dude trying to help his friend, and his friend just happens to be a swamp monster. And like the stylistic choices of everything working in it. Mr. Bloodstone, what's his name? The corpse, the talking corpse is just so good, and like it's just I can't sing this special's praises enough. It is exactly what I wanted it to be. It is exactly what I needed it to be. It is wonderful. It is perfect in my eyes.
Also, real quick, to devil's advocate, Mike's point, which I totally actually get and understand, is there is an implication that like the woman who we need to see die has killed monsters who are probably like our proxy characters we're following in this one, decent people who just have a condition in some cases. And so like some might be monsters and some might be good people, and it's like the callousness of it that we're supposed to not like about her. But I will also reference a point that Mike made when we did our discussion back in 2021, because I listened to it today, which is that sometimes shitty people are just shitty people, and those can be our villains too.
That's true.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I never thought we'd see Man-Thing. I never thought we'd see Man-Thing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and to see Man-Thing just come in, vaporize someone. Man, this movie is also bloody, like because they could get away with it because of black and white. People lose their arms and the blood spills out. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I love it. I love it.
It's we love genre. You're funny. Like we love genre here, and like when Sparks asked you about like do you like the MCU to feel all the same? Like I want artists to put their spin on a comic book. I don't want them to come in and get told not to do what they're known to do. Don't hire Sam Raimi and then don't let him be Sam Raimi. You know what I mean? That's why you get a workman director to do something like that. That's why you get like a Brett Ratner or some worksman director. Werewolf by Night is pure style. And it's again like Michael Giacchino like bringing his love of movies and music in to make something that is unique and different than what we've gotten with other entries into the MCU. And like I'm always looking for that. Like I love, if you want to give me a regular MCU movie, but I also really love if you want to be artsy with it. Like I'll eat it all up. Give me it all.
The speaking of the score, the music for this whole phase was phenomenal. Like I think the score for Ms. Marvel was amazing. I think the score for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, that score was like amazing. The music for this, only because you brought it up for this, for across the board has been noticeably like exemplary,
For sure.
Right.
We didn't like touch on it when we talked about Multiverse of Madness, but like one of the most memorable moments is that use of the score for the fight, the music fight, just so good.
Yeah.
Ben.
Yeah, so Werewolf by Night, the only reason why it's on number 3 is because I liked Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home a little bit more.
Sure.
It is fantastic. I agree everything with what Sparks, Ryan, and Brandon have said. Werewolf by Night, it was so different. It was so well made. And to me, I just love how they paid homage to the classic horror films. We brought in our own MCU werewolf, and we got Man-Thing. So I absolutely adored it. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic. When I first watched it, my girlfriend came home. I told her, like, you need to watch Werewolf by Night. It's freaking amazing.
Love it. Love it.
Okay. Oops, I lost it.
Oh no.
Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
9. Oh wow.
Oh my gosh. 4.
It is 12.
Oh, look at that. 12 as well.
Wow.
I have it at
Talk about it with us.
No, I know.
What are you talking about?
Black Panther, I have it at 15.
Yeah.
I really thought this missed a lot of marks.
This is the movie on the list I wanted to like the most, and it bums me out that I don't like it more. It's like half a great movie, and then they're like, hey, guess what? We got to set up MCU bullshit. And it's not in one part of the movie. It prevails throughout the entire movie. And I love Namor so much. I think he's fantastic. I think he is like in a Black Panther movie, like none of the Black Panther characters are my standouts. It's Namor the villain, even though I think sure he is really good in it. I'm so excited for Namor and everything else he's going to do in the future. The more I think about that last boat action scene, I'm like, why is that going?
The thing about this movie
why'd they take a boat?
That's really hard for me to because I really wanted to like it. I really did. But it's so sad in a way that I've never seen a movie be before. Like even Oscar-winning dramas that make you cry. Like you just live in this grief for 2.5 hours more. It's a really long movie. You're just living in the grief of Chadwick Boseman's death. And that's fine. I'm glad they got to make that movie. And there's a lot of this movie that works. I think the performances are incredible. Angela Bassett deserves that Oscar that she's nominated for.
Holy cow.
She's incredible. But there's so much of this movie for me that doesn't work. And it's the stuff that it makes it really difficult to rewatch, which is the living in that grief for so long. I don't know how often I want to do that. There's the stuff with like Val that I just don't think works at all throughout this entire phase. And that's in this movie, and I did not need it to be in this movie. Honestly, the movie's tighter if you take it out. I don't think Talokan is an interesting location. I think it's honestly kind of dull. What we see of it is so weirdly dull, frankly. Because I think Wakanda is so vibrant and so interesting, and I just didn't get that with Talokan. And it's just not. Just didn't work for me, and I feel really bad about it. The only reason why it's actually not lower is because it's structurally a much better movie than the things that are below it.
Yeah. How you feeling, Ben?
I just like another movie. I was definitely not vibing with this one, but I was also really wanting to vibe with it. I still think that Namor is a great villain. I still think that Angela Bassett, as much as I want her to win the Oscar, I also want the people from Everything Everywhere All at Once to win the Oscar. So, but if one of those 3 people win, I'm not going to be upset.
Yeah.
But I I get that losing Chadwick Boseman is one of the biggest blows to the MCU, because he, even though he was only T'Challa as Black Panther in very small array, he left his mark. And I don't know what I was expecting from Wakanda Forever. I wanted to love it more, and I just didn't. I know I had like a much better articulation to say of why I didn't, when we said on why I didn't enjoy it as much. I still enjoyed the movie, but I felt the length. I really wanted them to trim the fat. I also agreed that Talokan, that's the place, right? Atlantis, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not that as vibrant. I wanted to stay in Wakanda. But besides that, it was just one of those movies that you can't necessarily explain why. It's just, I'm feeling things I can't describe, and they aren't the best feelings. I still think it's a decent movie, but it's just not that high up on the list for me.
No. I found myself bored, like in the whole beginning, and it answered the question, what if, how it's like, why doesn't everyone have an Iron Man suit? And it's like, oh, because the movie will be really boring. Like by the end, when everyone had a mech suit, I was like, this is boring. Oh.
I will say, I like Ironheart's armor. I know I'm alone in that one. I think it's pretty cool.
No, I dig it.
It's like once Gwyneth Paltrow came out with Rescue, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That was kind of like, that was like the extent of it. Now it's like, oh, and this suit of armor, and this suit of armor, and this suit of armor. It's like, no, you can't. The drama was great. You guys, I mean, you always brought up the Oscar nominations. Yeah, it's those were the best parts. Was she was just working so hard, but like they took a boat to go fight, which was weird. Like they have space. It was just like, and I knew Namor. I don't know. I was like, he's not gonna die, because like he's too good of a villain. They won't waste him on this. He's gonna be more. But he was great, but like not utilized right, and just it didn't gel. It was the opposite of a couple of these, where it was like, oh, there's a lot of cool things that didn't gel together. And it's, yeah, I mean, that's why it's down there. This succumbed to, do you want to watch this or this? Do you want to watch this or this? It kept losing and kept losing and kept losing until it was where it was.
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
You have it the highest of all of us.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be really honest about it, which is that I have it high because I don't know how to trust myself about what I think about it, because I can't separate it from the context of the Chadwick Boseman passing stuff. Like the film can't live in a vacuum. So like all that emotional context stays attached to it. And I think it has a lot of mistakes, but I don't, this one, I probably need to get over like a lot of hangups and allow myself to say like, maybe this wasn't it. But it's so hard for me to assess that, because I'm like, well, but like, I love the siren inclusion thing, and there's so many aspects of the details of this film that I really enjoy. And I think like its biggest damning thing are two things, which is one, that like it lives too much in grief, because like I get the Chadwick Boseman T'Challa passing stuff, that we have to live in that grief to an extent.
Yeah.
But we talked about it in the review. Killing Queen Ramonda, I think, was such a mistake, because you're at the midpoint of the movie and they're like, we're going to throw another death at you. We're going to put our character who's been in grieving for a year and is recovering through a mourning process right back deep into it with another character. Here you go.
Yeah.
And I feel like that makes it such a slog emotionally to sit through, because it's just so hard to go through both of those. And I think that was a mistake. And the other mistake is that I think, not that this is the wrong point, but the execution is bad, much like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, though not as egregious, of the real enemy is imperialism. The real enemy is what should be seen as the American government. And that is exists because of Val and Ross, but it's not important to the story that's actually happening.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense, because you have Namor, who rightly doesn't trust the surface because he's been affected by imperialism. And then you have the Wakandans, who have never had to deal with it because they were isolationists. And now they're being pitted against each other because of their resources, when the same groups are after their resources, the exact same resources, but it only becomes about the conflict between these two mixed race people rather than about how the imperialism affects them.
Yeah.
I thought that would be a reveal that Julia Louis-Dreyfus was the real baddie planting these things so it would destabilize both their governments. Because I was like, wait, why are they fighting each other? It's like, what?
Yes.
Like, I was like, is Wakanda now the new United States? I was like, because Wakanda's acting just like the United States. Like they're the new. I was like, that's odd, but then it wasn't revealed, and so the politics got muddy and it was weird.
And like you can say that Namor shouldn't want to necessarily wipe out all the innocence of the surface world, sure. But like the correct response to imperialism actively and with militaristic force moving in, whether it's the Wakandans or the Talokans on your space and affecting your people, isn't something you just hope gets better or democratically vote against. Like they have to resist to some extent, and that's not the focus of the story. And I think that really does affect it, but it's so wrapped up in also, again, the grief story and like all this other stuff that's happening, and it's so many things, and there's so many elements that I think are good. This is a long-winded way of me saying like 4's probably too high, but I don't know where it goes, and I'm like, there's so many things that I think are quality about it that I feel like it has to stay kind of high, because there's a lot of value in doing an emotional send-off of an actor and character at the same time, and Namor being an incredible villain and all these kinds of things. But it's true that there's so much that drags this movie down, and does make it really hard to watch again. I don't really know where it goes, but I left it high because I couldn't reassess it. Yeah.
I did enjoy though the perspective switch of like the first movie is like the United States is like, we're the best, and then this really intense, old world culture just surpasses them, and it's Wakanda, and the United States is like, who are these people? What? Wakanda? Oh my god, this is crazy. And then this one, Wakanda is like, we're the best, and then this crazy old world culture shows up and just lays waste to them, and they're like, where are these people coming from? What? You have a cool superpower? I thought we were the ones that had the cool one person super, like Namor was God, what Black Panther was to the United States, Namor is to Wakanda, and Wakanda's like, we were not prepared for it. It was this great like flipping Wakanda on its head. Like that's the best. There's always a bigger fish. There's always a deeper culture. There's always more rich things. Don't think that you're special. We're all just kind of pieces of shit. Every one of us. So I enjoyed that aspect of it.
So, Mike, we're getting a lot of electrical feedback from you.
That's just my personality.
It's electric.
I don't know what happened.
It sounds like you have like a Mr. Sinister robot voice right now. It's weird.
You might want to mic plug or something.
Like it's number 9. Like Wakanda Forever is number 9, and like it would be lower if there weren't so many good things about it.
Sure.
It's just unfortunate that like it's not where like, oh, I can just look at the third act and it's the problem. It's like the Val stuff's interspliced, the grief stuff's interspliced, and it's like it's so messy. It's a really messy movie.
A lot of you like made the point of like, the Val and Everett Ross stuff is in there and it's cluttering and it doesn't work. And I agree with you. But the thing is like, what was the solution is that I think it actually needed like more. It needed more presence because it needed to matter, because like Mike said, it needed to be kind of like a reveal that Val was the bad guy.
Yes. They're in the movie for almost feels like no reason. Like you can rewrite some lines and they can be completely cut from the movie, which is a problem because I have like 40 minutes of the movie.
When it comes to like setting up other things in the MCU, I think Ironheart is really well integrated and makes sense, and I'm fine with that. But you cut, and I think cutting her, maybe you could, but honestly, I think it's a lesser movie because of it. But you cut Val and Everett, nothing changes.
No,
but it should. That's the thing.
It should.
It should.
Yeah, but you lose your white guy quota.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing. I liked seeing Everett Ross in the beginning. I was like, oh, cool, Martin Freeman. Cool, I'm happy with this.
Because correctly, like some people have degraded the film down to saying like this is just about the Latino representation fighting the black people, and that's all this movie's about. And like, no, it isn't, but it isn't executing on the fact that that isn't what it's about well enough.
Yes.
And so you do need Val and the white people there because it can't be a movie that's about that. It should be a movie that's about their influence, but
we needed more of it.
Yeah.
All right. The final entry. We have gotten to the final entry of Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special.
What does that look like to you?
That looks like an 8.
It's an 8.
It's a 6.
6? Ben?
It's a 4.
It's a 3.
Oh, this was 16. This is my second least favorite.
Wow.
Talk about family. This is all about family.
Oh, it's just, this was the one that was like, oh, they made this deal fit like 10 years ago when the first Guardians of the Galaxy was hot, and now it came out, and I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't care about you getting Kevin Bacon. I think this looks, I don't want to say cheap, but it's like these sets seem like Disneyland now. Like, what it was Drax. Like, okay. Like, I was really bored. It wasn't invested in any of it. It looked really cheap. Like the intro and outro animations. I mean, compare that with the intro to Ms. Marvel. It's just like,
it's a holiday special.
I mean, because they're specifically recreating the Star Wars one, but I get you. Like, it does look cheap. They're doing it.
Well, then you didn't get it. Like, I see what you're doing. But, and I mean, Chris Pratt, he's looking his age. He's not plucky Peter Quill anymore. He didn't hit the gym for this special, which is fine. But
Mike,
by contrast, I'm just like, where's the Guardians of the Galaxy magic for me is kind of gone. And this seemed like it was way too late. If this was 7 years ago, it would be the greatest thing. You know, the Kevin Bacon joke.
Do you like the first 2 Guardians movies?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. I thought the second movie was maybe better than the first. Really impressive stuff.
I'm just making sure. Okay, for this one.
It's nothing against the Guardians of the Galaxy at all. It's just this was almost kind of like it was almost like nostalgic too. Like, remember these guys? Remember, like and then like they had to sing. Kevin Bacon had to sing a song, and that made me sad because it was like Kevin Bacon saved the world with his dancing, and so did Peter. Peter saved the world with his dancing because of you. So I'm like, oh, there's going to be an awesome big dance number, and it's like, oh no, it's Kevin Bacon and the Bacon Brothers band. Okay, that's fine. Like, it just didn't. I didn't like it.
Groot's in the background going, yeah.
Yeah, Groot looked kind of interesting. Was it a guy in a suit that they enhanced?
Just swole. He's just a swole 20-year-old.
Yeah, it looked like big enough to have a guy in it finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just missed the spot. I think it was just too little, too late. We're too far into this where I'm like, oh, these guys, cool.
So that's really interesting.
Their only thing in this phase.
So that's really interesting to me because this to me felt like the right time to bring this out. This was, James Gunn talked about it. Like, he was like, I always thought the Star Wars Holiday Special, everything in it was fine. It was just the way they did it was wrong. So I wanted to try and do it right. And personally, I think he did. I think there was a lot. I think, he's got fun musical numbers, 2 new Christmas classics that are brilliant. I think Kevin Bacon's a lot of fun. I think Drax and Mantis are I like them more in this than I did in Guardians 2. I don't like Guardians 2 as much as I like Guardians 1. I prefer Guardians 1. That's not to say I don't like Guardians 2. I really do. But for me, Drax doesn't hit very well for me in Guardians 2, but he does in this. And so I was much more interested in a lot of the things they were doing in this special. Seeing Drax and Mantis in LA. Maybe you got what'd you call it? PTSD from LA?
LA PTSD.
That's what it is.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I know. I know where they shot this.
I thought I thought that was kind of fun because we never really see Drax be like superhuman. We don't really get to see him toss a car like it's paper. But we'd get to in this, which I thought was kind of fun.
Yeah.
See, it's nitpicky that you bring that up because they've been to alien planets, but then when they're at Earth, they're like super fish out of water. Like it was cute and funny, don't get me wrong, but like they know how to act on an alien planet. Like this isn't their first time off world. And I'm gonna, not to super Captain Buzzkill, but I didn't like the police. See, now I'm like, the police in this holiday special just open up on Drax, and then he like just like beats the hell out of all the police. And that's like such a weird thing that's happening now. That's another reason I didn't like that last episode of Ms. Marvel at all. And when that showed, I didn't know, because I watched Ms. Marvel recently, and that the last episode, this slate comes up that's like, oh, some images in this fictional show might be disturbing. And I was like, oh, and then I looked up in the corner and it was like flashing lights. I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, I guess it's flashing lights. And then when the police stormed the high school and were shooting at all the kids, I was like, my brain was like, you don't like this. I was like, I don't like this. This is weird. This is what they're talking about. And then they like open up on the kid. Like they open up on her too. Just not the cool sonic guns. They just empty clips on her. And I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like this anymore. Oh no. I've been affected by the world. Like it's bleeding in now.
That's totally fair.
And I didn't think that was going to happen to me. I thought I was arrogant, maybe.
No.
To think that.
That's gross.
You know? And then here I am. And these things actually do affect me. And I don't like them. And that's another thing in the holiday special. Not as egregious as Ms. Marvel, but when the police come, I'm like, ooh, I don't want police to come. I don't like this. Like, I
remember specifically when we were watching it and they started shooting Drax. I'm like, well, isn't that just true to life? They just open up on people.
I really didn't. I don't like it either. You're right. And like the Ms. Marvel thing also stood out to me because I have a huge problem with the fact that specifically in Ms. Marvel, what happens is that, the cops show up and like they're like not on the side of the damage control people, and then an agent gives them orders, and then they're like, no, we are with the damage control people, and then like it's all of them with their guns on them, and I'm like, this is super not okay.
Yeah. It's weird. I mean, there you go. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, comedy. It's also subjective. It might just didn't work for you.
Ryan or Sparks?
Yeah, I this is just like it's I just like I tried something else as popcorn. Like this is just like a nice, fun, like 45 minutes. Like it's low stakes. Like we're gonna go kidnap Kevin Bacon, just have a cute little adventure. Like it's just like and not to say this is gonna sound arrogant, but like it's not something like I think like it's just a Guardian special. Like I don't think about it too much. It's not like the other movies. It's just like a cute little thing. Like it's like it's inconsequential, but it's a good time if you watch it. So like it's 8. Like it's nothing. It's not bad. It doesn't add really anything except Mantis is Peter's sister, but you kind of already know that if you just watch the movie Guardians 2. It's just like a good time. Like just a good candy bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I put it at, where did I put it? It's 6. Like I think it's still good Guardians quality material overall. I'm happy to enjoy it. Because it is such a bite-sized piece, I'm like, this is very nice. I like having this little supplement material, yum yum yum, as I wait for my Guardians 3. Sure,
where I cry. We're all crying.
I enjoy that.
Both you two are just like, describe it. Yum 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 yum.
Yeah, more than anything, I personally like seeing. I think Mantis and Drax have a fun energy together, those two actors specifically, and so watching them have their own little moment in the sun, I really like, because I like their interactions in Guardians too.
Yeah.
So fleshing that out even more, giving them even more comedy to play with each other. The like, and I think it does stay on the wheelhouse of like who both of those characters are. Like Drax throwing her when she asks, "Do you think you could throw me over and he just does it, and then she's like, "Why did you do it?" And he said, "You were asking," and she's like, "I was asking. I didn't say do it." That all just lands for me. I had a fun time.
Good time.
Ben?
No, I absolutely have a blast with this. I absolutely love it. Everything you guys have been saying, everything that these guys have been saying, I want to echo. I was just laughing it up when I was thinking about it when I was at work the following day, and I don't know what else I could add to this conversation except that this feels like if Drax and Mantis were to go onto a little adventure themselves into Hollywood, into Los Angeles, this is what would happen.
Right.
And like when she goes, like one of my favorite bits is like when she's walking down Hollywood Boulevard and she sees the costume people in front of the Chinese theater, and she yells "Steve!" and just runs to this dude who was dressed like Captain America, and he goes, he runs away.
My favorite bit is when Drax gets really upset at the GoBots, and Vance is like, "GoBots killed his brother."
It's like, okay, I guess GoBots are a real thing in the MCU. Or even like when they're at the club and Drax is getting hit on, and he just doesn't care. He's just trying to drink. Or
Drax at the gay bar. Oh yeah.
Or when Mantis, everyone's like $40, she's like, I have no money. You will give it to me for free, and she just gets
and give me your money.
Yeah, she's a criminal on this one.
She is. And also, I think. I just love how they react, and I just love their chemistry between the two of them and how they interact with each other. It's like, do you want to do this for Quill or do you want the little man? And Drax is like, I want the little man. You're talking about the little elf decoration. So I love it. I love this thing.
Mike, you have more?
I did laugh once in its defense when Rocket got Bucky's arm. I actually like that. Actually made me really happy. But then I thought, this is my sickness. I was like, how did he get his arm? Like, what? Then I was like, was it when they like karate chopped his arm off and it fell off and he was so surprised? I was like, no, he gets it back. But what really hung me up was like, it was like, oh, ever since we bought Nowhere, Peter's been sad. I'm like, they bought Nowhere? And then I just kept thinking about that. I was like, how did they buy Nowhere? Why would they buy Nowhere? Yeah. What is going on? Like, that was more important to me than any of the Christmas stuff. I think it's the same as Thor, Love and Thunder for Brandon, where I was just like, all right, like, I get it. Yeah, aren't you guys quippy? Aren't you guys fun? Aren't you guys the ragtag group? They
kind of imply, and I think we're going to get more into this in Guardians 3, but they imply that they were able to buy Nowhere because of what Rocket and Nebula were doing when they were just the Guardians of the Galaxy during that 5-year time gap, because the blip happened in the galaxy as well.
Yeah.
And so like, I think that perhaps maybe in the next movie they'll be like, we bought Nebula, we bought Nowhere because of this, and this is the why, and we'll do that in the next movie. But I found this to be absolutely delightful. I just think this is exactly what I wanted from these specials. This is why they're so high for me. Both the Halloween and Christmas specials, like, they're exactly what I wanted. They're exactly what I needed. I think they're both a joy, so delightful. The Christmas one feels so tonally different. The Guardians one feels tonally in line with and also different with the other Guardian films. It's perfect. Frankly, I think it's perfect.
Lovely. All right. Shall
okay.
We, real quick.
That's 17.
One by one, run down your lists.
Can you believe
we did all these?
This many projects?
Should we go 17 to 1 or 1 to 17?
Yes, I'll go 17 to 1.
17 to 1.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go first. It's The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, What If Season 1, Black Widow, Moon Knight, WandaVision, Miss Marvel, Eternals, Hawkeye, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Loki, She-Hulk Attorney at Law, The Guardians Holiday Special, Thor Love and Thunder, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, *, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Werewolf by Night, Spider-Man No Way Home.
Ryan, do you want to go next?
Why not? Going from worst to best. What If? Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Black Widow, Moon Knight, Thor Love and Thunder, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Hawkeye, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, WandaVision, Miss Marvel, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Werewolf by Night, She-Hulk, Loki, Whip Whip, Spider-Man No Way Home.
Mike, do you want to go next?
So from worst to best, the worst, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, then the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Moon Knight, What If, then we're into the mid-levels, Eternals, Black Widow, WandaVision, Werewolf by Night, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, She-Hulk, then top of the mid-levels is Loki, and then the green, Ms. Marvel, Spider-Man No Way Home, Thor Love and Thunder, and number 1, Hawkeye.
Love it.
I love
Ben?
your list, Mike. It's so good.
Ben?
From worst to best, Eternals, Black Widow, Miss Marvel, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Hawkeye, Wakanda Forever, What If, Moon Knight, Loki, She-Hulk Attorney at Law, Thor Love and Thunder, WandaVision, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, Werewolf by Night, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and finally Spider-Man No Way Home.
Ben, you're getting more into spooky stuff every year. Every year it's creeping in there. You got a Werewolf by Night on the top. Look at that. Look at that.
Falcon Winter Soldier, Thor Love and Thunder, Moon Knight, What If, Black Widow, Wakanda Forever, Hawkeye, Miss Marvel, WandaVision, Loki, She-Hulk, Eternals, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Werewolf by Night.
Ow.
Werewolves of London.
So much fun variety on like the front and back ends, and then a lot of the middle ones just kind of shifting around.
Yeah.
With some numbers there.
Yeah.
Basically. Great. I love that.
We have strong personalities.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for doing this with us. I hope you had a good time.
You did it.
I hope I didn't offend you with my wrong opinions.
Number 1, you have nothing to apologize for. Number 2, you did, and I hate you.
Do we want any like final thoughts on this phase? Like, how are we feeling about it overall? I feel like looking back on it, doing this ranking and everything, the main thing is like I know there's a lot of talk about out there of people being like, it's not building to anything, or it's kind of a wash in a lot of places, and I feel like the purpose of it wasn't really to build to anything. It was to, granted, I don't, even though it's 17 projects, I don't think the phase should have ended here. It's kind of a weird space, whether you'd say it's
The King Dynasty begins.
whether it's ending on Wakanda Forever or Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Technically it's the Holiday Special. Like, it's still just kind of a weird note to end a phase on, I think.
Yeah.
But the overall sense, it feels like, we're rebuilding a new foundation, and a lot of like experimentation of not only like with the new medium of the shows, but what is going to work, what is going to land with audiences, who are going to be our characters we're going to push forward into like prime situations, or who do we have to rethink based on how they go out these first times.
Yeah.
And then hopefully, I'm hoping in the next phases, a lot of these characters kind of find their ways into stories that maybe fit them a bit better. Or utilize them more. So certain ones, like I hope the Eternals find their way into a story that really, really accentuates what I think works about them. Or like when Miss Marvel comes back, that's really incorporating her and her world really well. And I really hope the next Captain America is better than that show.
I mean, it's got a lot of the same creative team, so I'm real worried.
I am too.
The head writer of Falcon Winter Soldier is writing one. Captain America.
I just like, this is just a bunch of movies. I don't know. Like after Endgame, it's like, I don't know if you can ever recapture that again. I know they're going to try to. And with Secret Wars, like that's really big. Like the scale of the movie will be bigger. Will I feel as the way I felt with Endgame? We'll see. But like, there's a lot of really great movies and a lot of okay movies, and there's great shows and there's okay shows, and it's just like another phase of the MCU where there's good and bad. So like I'm just happy that they're experimenting, that we get something like an hour-long special or a TV show. I just I want them to just put the quality behind it. Don't shoot the thing until the script's done. That's all I really want. But that's not going to happen with Marvel.
Ben or Mike?
I don't really have any final thoughts. I mean,
Okay.
I would just say that I'm not like, oh, thank God this is done, we can move on, because there were some great things that did come out of this. There really were. I think that after the multi-year high that Marvel has had, maybe this is the one time where they hit a little bit of a rope up and they take a step back and realize, okay, we've learned some lessons. Let's move forward with those lessons learned, and we can continue. We can work on to being that, like the king of like connected media, or the giant empire they have now. I wouldn't say this is like the absolute. I mean, as of now, yeah, it's bottom. Like the phase as a whole, maybe the bottom tier of all the phases, if I'm being perfectly honest. But all in all, it's not. It's like when we talk about, like, it's like Marvel movies. I mean, there aren't like really bad movies. I mean, there are some bad movies, but there aren't like horribly bad movies. You know what I get? So
yeah,
I would say phase 4, not the best, but you know what? There's some stuff to look forward to. So I'm not completely upset about it.
Mike?
It also has double the amount of projects, so it has double the amount of failure potentially. So
yeah, maybe like trim a few projects here and there.
Well, this was not only a transition period after, like, you know, the first three phases, which wrapped up the whole Infinity Saga. They were also transitioning into streaming and TV shows as like media itself was changing since they even began.
Yeah.
That's very difficult. And you know what? I hypothesize that if this was phase 1 and none of the other stuff happened, like there was no Infinity Saga, this was phase 1, movies and streaming on a Disney Plus platform, like the Disney Plus platform came out and this was their flagship, this would be blowing people's minds.
Oh yeah.
I think they would think this was amazing. And so within that context, I think they're actually doing a fantastic job, and they're they're prisoners of their own success.
Yeah.
You know, and I think they're doing a great job for like a first phase to transition into. Kind of like I was saying before, I only didn't see 4 things, and then when I watched them, I really liked like 2 of them. You mean 2 of, like, I really liked a lot of these, and I've watched all of them, and we had a lot to talk about. It's not garbage by any means. I think a lot of people are down on phase 4. And I think maybe that's just the fad now of media. Like, you know, but I'm really impressed actually as I'm looking at this, and I'm really impressed with the whole, everyone's having kids and mentoring kids now. And it's going to be really interesting to see what they do next with these kids step into their roles and having all of their, you know, is there going to be is Hawkeye going to die? What's going to happen to Hawkeye? Like
legacy characters.
Like what's, like, how's that all going to work? And I think they're being really smart. And I'm curious to see what's next. And maybe it's not for me. You know, I also have to take into account that I'm not the man I used to be, right? You know, and some of the stuff isn't for me anymore. While I do enjoy it, you know, I'm not going to get that dopamine hit because that's not where I am right now. I was on a podcast talking about movies years ago, and I was talking about Back to the Future and how much I enjoyed it as a kid when I was really young, because I was like, they're going back in time. This is crazy. Bah, 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 bah. And then I became a teenager in my 20s and, you know, early 20s. I was like, oh, this is a movie about trying to get your friend laid. Like, what? This is like we got to get you laid by the end of summer, buddy. And then I realized, oh, what's it going to be like when I'm in my 50s and I've mentored a kid, and now I'm in Doc Brown's shoes. Now I'm watching the movie from his perspective and how that movie changes as I'm getting older. And it's interesting to see these movies catering to me, because I'm identifying with Hawkeye more as the mentor role of having a daughter, where there's some girl who's 11 who's like, whoa, you know, the Kate Bishop, she's my hero. You know, that's why I really like Ms. Marvel too, to see someone like hero worshiping Captain Marvel. And well, what's that mean for them? You know, how's that going to affect their life? It gave her a little bravery to go to the costume contest. After the costume contest, she was a little bit more assertive in school. And that's what these things really are. That's what these movies really are. It's for that person, just to give them that little bit of boost in their everyday life. You know, to give them that 15 seconds of crazy to make that decision, to say yes. You know, you watch, you know, what is it? You're like 10% the last movie you saw. You know what I mean? You're just really like, you see a great movie, you're like, no, I'm going to do it. Let's go. Or if you see a depressing movie, you're like, oh, maybe I should just be quiet tonight. Maybe we should you know, be alone in my thoughts. And I think this is doing it. And I'm really impressed.
Sure. I love that.
You said something that triggered an existential crisis for a minute there. I was like, I'm going to be Doc Brown.
Oh, good. it wouldn't be a Mike Matola podcast if it didn't trigger an existential crisis in at least one of you.
I think on a note, just on the transitional phase, like it does also have the big umbrella of like it's also the COVID phase, and like all of this was supposed to come out differently, and be, you know, like there is an amount of like, again, the product is what it is, but recognizing that like all of this was supposed to go differently originally.
Falcon was supposed to be first, and I'm glad it wasn't, because that would have started this phase off bad.
WandaVision was going to lead right into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. There was going to be a virus subplot in Falcon Winter Soldier. We know this now, and
then No Way Home was going to feed out of Multiverse of Madness. So like it was all going
to be like
this whole other thing.
And it all still turned out, besides Falcon, like that all turned out good, which is amazing.
Yeah. Because America Chavez was supposed to be in No Way Home originally.
Oh Lord, that would have been fun.
Yeah, she was going to do what Ned did.
That 100% makes sense. Totally. That's why she's in magic school now.
Let's see. What can I say that hasn't been already said? I think that this phase, I'll say this. I think that this phase I think Marvel needs to learn some lessons from this phase, and I hope they don't learn the wrong lessons. I think Marvel may have learned the wrong lessons from Eternals, and I'm hoping not. And I think phase 5 looks to be less quantity over quality. And I think that that this phase, on paper, there's really nothing wrong with this phase, but there's a lot of things that Marvel has been doing that we have just noticed on a larger scale, because this phase has 17 projects. There are 17 things that were coming out weekly at a time. And it was, and people just kind of started to notice the things that Marvel has been kind of coasting by. Ryan, you kind of jabbed at it, but it's true. Like a lot of these projects go into production before their final act is written. James Gunn said that said almost as much when he was doing his DC thing. Like that's a problem, and that frankly needs to stop. Because if it continues to go that way, those cracks are going to start getting bigger. Marvel needs to fill in the cracks that they've left kind of alone for a while, and they need to start filling them in. Because if not, they're just going to get bigger. You cannot recapture the Infinity Saga. You can't. It's impossible. It will be impossible to do. So you need to. What worked were the experimental stuff, where the stuff of like, here's a new character, here's an experimental project, here's where we're finding our groove, and I hope that they land on their feet rather than on their ass. And now phase 5, we'll see whether or not they have. I think, and I'm interested to see where phase 5 goes.
I want to add to what you were saying with, you know, the experimental stuff worked. It was also the stuff that we all kind of like gravitated towards for the most part was the stuff where storytelling felt like it was the most prominent factor. Yeah. That characters and the story that was about them, those were the things that we were caring about the most overall in a general sense. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's also a main lesson that it feels like they need to learn. And something that I see looking at all of phase 4 is that they need to be way more. If you're going to be a cinematic universe, I'm not saying every property needs to feel more and more crossovered or connected. That's not what I'm saying. But I also do think they need to feel like they live in the world that we are taking place in. If we're seeing 17 projects right after Endgame and Far From Home that exist in this world, more than 2 of them should have touched on the blip.
That's crazy.
Or the blip shouldn't have existed.
So many things. It's like nothing. It didn't even happen.
The fact that like it's barely even kind of mentioned in Shang-Chi, and by mentioned I mean it's on a billboard. Like that's insane to me. I understand that a lot of people are like, please just never talk about the blip again and get away from it. And I'm like, you know what? I kind of agree with that. But the way that I land is that, you know, that 5 years later title card in Endgame is really effective. And boy, do you feel, whoa, I did not expect this turn. Yeah. But then when you get to the end of it, I'm like, this doesn't feel like they care about a world where that happened or world building for how that affects all these characters. So why have an event that monumental occur if it's not going to affect all the stories that come after?
True. Very true.
Here's the thing. I think Feige spread himself too thin with this phase, and I think it shows. There is a quality control that Marvel has that allowed those cracks that I was talking about to kind of go unnoticed for so long. And because he spread himself too thin, those cracks were seen in many of these projects. You know, a lot of people gravitated towards the fact that like the action sequences are previs before a director comes on board. The third acts aren't written. Like the people noticed these things more than they did back then. The general audience is starting to notice, and I think that the quantity over quality is what really hurt this phase. And if they start prioritizing quality over quantity, and again, that's why I go back to phase 5, it has less projects than phase 4. That's really interesting to me. I'm curious if they separated these phases specifically because they were like, we spread ourselves too thin. Let's just focus on these projects. Let's get these stories right before we put them out, rather than just kind of throwing out what was done in phase 4.
Yeah. Also, notably, something I noticed over this past phase is I do think Feige spread himself so thin that producer Nate Moore had to cover in for a lot of positions, because we saw a lot more of him talking when these projects were coming out, and a lot of things he says are usually the things where I'm like, this doesn't work about the show. Nate Moore's like, this is why this is great about the show, and I'm like, nope.
Where's Kevin? We need Kevin back.
Someone needs to muzzle that guy because he's not working.
What about Kevin?
Okay, that's all. That's it.
Look at that. 17 projects in and out. Can't believe it.
Mike.
I believe it. I'm tired.
Mike, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. Why don't you plug your stuff?
Well, I love being on the show. I love you guys so much.
We love you.
You can
too.
find all my artwork at linebylineposters.com, and you can follow me on Instagram or TikTok at Mike Matola. I'm working on some big projects. I'm working on 3 different line by line projects at once right now, and it's intense. And I'll let you guys know more about that once I have more. I don't know when to start feeding things out. You know what I mean? Like, because one's going to take like a year and a half to finish. Like conservative, like at like if I really work hard, a year and a half. Are you like it's difficult
chiseling marble? Like what's going on here?
I'll let you guys know once I kind of have something to taste, right? You know?
Yeah.
But so just keep following me. I'm just having fun, living life, you know, just keeping it real. You guys know that. You guys get me. You know how it is.
Yeah. Well, we can't wait to have you on again, perhaps for another Mike's Impossible Movie Trivia Challenge, which there are 5 or 6 of them on the channel now, I think.
I don't know. It's not my job to count such things. Just make them.
I will remind Mike, like we talked about doing one for a particular Marvel one, and the joke Mike made that struck fear in all of us is that for that one we would do a trivia challenge on the entire Infinity Saga.
Sounds daunting as heck.
Hey Brandon, just schedule it. I'll make it happen. You know that.
I can't rewatch the MCU again. I can't do it. It's too much.
We will schedule that because we're trying to do a lot this year, and one of the things I really want to do is get you on more. Okay, so guys, that's phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe done. It's over. The next Marvel Cinematic Universe is phase 5. Probably by the time you're watching this, we have already reviewed Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, because that is going live at the time of this recording tomorrow. It's already out there. Should go check it out. Go now. What are you doing here? Do it. That works.
Thanks for watching.
So Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is probably up right now. You can check that out. Of course, we've talked about all of phase 4. All of phase 4 we've talked about in depth. You can find that on our YouTube channel. Our Fake Nerds Watch series is now has an audio channel. The Loki audio episodes will be up by the time you're listening to this, so check those out. If you haven't already, go check them out. Yeah, that's it, guys. We're continuing on, of course, with our Scream franchise discussion. You can check out Scream 1, 2, 3, and 4 we've done by now. Probably 5 Cream coming soon, so check that out. Of course, you can check out, if you like this video and you subscribe to this channel, Fake Nerds Watch, which is now audio as well. Video, there is The Last of Us, Fake Nerds Watch for The Last of Us, guys. You can check out Ryan Sparks and our good friend Pi to talk about the TV series The Last of Us, HBO's The Last of Us. Coming soon, myself and Cookie will be going through Star Trek Picard Season 3. I am stupid excited. I shouldn't be. I've been burned before, twice before. Fool me 3 times. Shame on kill me.
Hey man, I don't like you can trust people on the internet or whatever, but like the early buzz is really good.
I know.
But like that can mean anything, so
I know. The second season started strong and it killed me, but that I don't know, guys. This one could be good.
Next gen, baby.
Cool. Like, of course, you check out other shows such as Basement Arcade, which is a video game series, and Basement Arcade Pause Menu, which is a video game Let's Play series. Of course, there's probably a new episode out around this time. You could check that out. There is also Figner Book Club and Animation Station, both of which you can find on this channel and various audio feeds for some of them. You can find those if you like this video and subscribe to this channel. Linked below are our TeePublic and our Patreon. If you'd like to support us financially, there are some Mike Matola shirts actually in there. There's you glitched a little bit, so that was really funny seeing your head do that.
Someone's talking about me.
There's some logos. He did actually the logo that's in the corner here for us.
This one right here.
You can buy that as a shirt. If you'd like to support us financially, it's TeePublic and Patreon, linked below. Or you can find everything on our website at fakenerpodcast.com. We got blogs, we got links, we got writings, we got episodes, it's all there. Linked below, or just find it, whatever. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Figner Podcast. FignerGuys@gmail.com. If you'd like to touch with personally, I messed up because I forgot to thank the listeners, the watchers, and Jeremy Vellucci for all of the music you've heard here tonight and all the music you hear on all the shows. And, of course, Mike Matola, who I can thank in person, who's collaborated with us on a number of things, and we love having him on. You can find him, as he said, on Instagram and TikTok. Cool. Figner Podcast on all the social medias, FignerGuys@gmail.com. I'm AB Tim McClure on Instagram and Twitter. I also write for Atomic Geekdom, Kaiju Ramen Media, and CBR.com. Ben.
You can find me on the internet at BenMaggot27, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can also find me writing for Old School Gamer Magazine, Fusion Gaming Magazine, GoNintendo.com, as well as playing Mary Frankenstein in D & Dark.
Sparks.
You can find me slipping into an MCU coma at Sparks Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty.
Ryan.
You could find me entering the quantum realm next week, baby, at DJ Tony Snark. 616 Ant-Man. I'm excited to see you again.
Mike, we've plugged you 3 times now. Do you want to do it again?
You can find my work at linebylинeposters.com and follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Mike Matola.
Excellent, guys. Well, until next time you see us, stay fake, nerds.